this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live.
Now, can we talk a little bit about Eric Swalwell?
How about no?
I know that guy. I believed in him and his cute little family.
Are you a stupid person?
Standing up to all those people when he, berates them for their moralist behavior.
Wow.
And then all this comes out about him. It's heartbreaking to me. And I wrote him a little message, and I said, Bill Clinton broke my heart, and now you did too.
Got him! Got him!
The conclusion I've come to, men suck.
How dare you!
Men suck. They can't sort of control their sexual urges. This is what I find.
I doubt it.
You are fake news.
You suck.
You suck.
You suck.
Very fake news.
Shut up, silly woman.
You sound like a hysterical bleeping snowflake lesbo bleep.
That is correct.
That's uncalled for.
I was like, OMG.
All right, America, go to the YouTube right now. Skag free, whoever he is.
Duct tape all over the place. It's a disgrace.
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
I can't do it. We'll do it live.
Fuck it, we'll do it live!
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live, a proud duct tape production for Sunday, April 19th, 2026. Thank you for tuning in. Sitting shotgun tonight in his usual Sunday seat is highly regarded author Matt Palumbo. Welcome back.
Saddle up, partner.
Highly regarded.
I see your mic setup is functioning properly.
Yes, there was a little mishap on Wednesday, but I'm glad you guys survived without me.
If people didn't see, Matt made a special Wednesday spot duty appearance. And actually, in fairness, he lasted, 90 minutes?
So better than zero, yeah.
Right, so it was actually a mostly duct tape-free show. We still don't know what happened, although the theory, I guess, is that your headphone cord pulled it.
I have no pull room on this. I think I had just turned in a direction where it pulled it off my desk, but the charger bent on the insertion point, and we no longer had any way for me to talk. So I called in on my phone to talk, but that was no good.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Thankfully it was a relatively easy fix, and the duct tape rolls on, and I don't have to figure out how I deal with employee-related losses as a matter of business.
$20. Whole thing solved.
Thankfully. All right. Great guest tonight. We recorded a segment this week with John Doyle from Blaze TV. We do have some audience overlap with John. So
he's
it was nice to meet him.
really good. He was really good.
Talked a lot of different things. Trump, he's a big plan truster, so trying to get some Trump encouragement back. 2028 predictions, libertarianism, what he calls girlboss Christianity, a lot of different things. We'll get into that in the second half of the show. Before that, in the news for discussion tonight, there was peace with Iran for, did it last 24 hours? I don't know. And then there wasn't peace anymore. The Strait was open forever. They'll never close it again. Now it's closed again. Who knows? Peace talks resume tomorrow before Tuesday's ceasefire deadline. And I know you're excited because Bridge and Power Plant Day back on.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, it's still coming. At least the threat was made over the weekend.
I was saying the other episode on Wednesday before the incident that Trump is the only president that basically lets you insider trade, because anytime he tanks the market, it always comes back within a week. So worst case scenario, he just tanks the market on Monday with the Strait reopening, and then for some reason a month from now I'll have more money. So
well, yeah, if you who knows what's going to happen tomorrow morning. We'll see how the market reacts to the fake out they didn't announce a formal peace deal, but it basically was whatever the fake out into the weekend was. Maybe there's a buying opportunity Monday, and then you can collect that Trump dip. Not financial advice, full legally required disclaimer, all that. Hennepin County District Attorney Mary Moriarty in Minneapolis, of course. She charges an ICE agent for pointing a gun while in traffic. We'll get into that and what the legal theory is. Gay dads go viral for laughing at their newborn baby saying mama because, of course, there is no mom, and that's funny somehow. We'll see if I make it through that segment without getting into some kind of rage. But then before John is here, kill the Boer South Africa guy, Julius Malema. That's your story tonight. Mm-hmm. He's going to prison, but for obscure reasons that seem like, I don't know, item 100 on the list of reasons he should go to prison.
Yeah.
He fired not that you fire a gun in a crowded environment. I get that. That's usually a criminal offense. Mm-hmm. But this guy has been getting away with a lot of stuff for a long time.
Yeah. And he did it in 2018. And you were asking me, why the hell did this take so long? So I asked Lowbrow, Morta, whatever. He's one of our viewers who always donates. And he lives in South Africa. And it was actually brought because an Afrikaner group, the spokesman of which has actually been a guest on your show about a year ago.
Oh yeah. I should reach out to him.
We should.
He could explain this to me.
So he was the one. It was his group that actually brought this forward. And Lowbrow was telling me it's just because they didn't actually want to charge him, so they just delayed it as long as they possibly could. And I'll go into more detail during the story, but that's basically the story. Is they wouldn't have charged him without the Afrikaner group getting involved, and they just tried to delay it as long as they possibly could.
I shouldn't space on the name. Caracal Cat on X. His name is Ernst von.
I remember the Von.
It's like a Dutch Von name. Yeah.
I have it written down in my notes.
Ernst von something.
I
should credit him properly. I'm sure Tim will message me and be like, "You idiot! It's Ernst von such and such." Okay. Plus, we have Hoax, Hate, and other odds and ends to close. Before we get into it, got to say hello to our featured listener-owned business for the evening. It's a new one. That's our friends at Knockout 2, Wrath of the Karen by Exceptional Games. In Knockout 2, Wrath of the Karen, you become an FBI agent, that's Bureau of Federal Boxing Investigations, and save humanity from Karenism. Something has corrupted the once good people of this great country, and it's spreading fast. In Knockout 2, it is your job to punch your way to finding the source. It is the funniest game you'll play all year. It's made by a crew of 3 in Spokane, Washington. Use the link below and add the game to your Steam wishlist. Wishlisting is totally free, and it helps developers win the algorithm. So if you want to win the war against traditional media and ensure more based games hit the market, wishlisting Knockout 2 is a great way to show support. Knockout 2 just released, and it's loaded with features. A 3-part single-player campaign, daily missions, custom challenges, time trials, character customization, and loads of lore to collect for your investigation crazy board. There's even a free demo you can play right now. Find the wishlist link for Knockout 2, Wrath of the Karen in the description or at mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. Find all the information on our special offers at mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. Deals by listeners for listeners. All right. I know everyone was waiting for Rosie O'Donnell to chime in about Eric Swalwell.
Who gives a crap? I don't care.
As a former fan, apparently, of Eric, Rosie is a former fan of Eric after what he has done in recent years. Rosie O'Donnell has now concluded the proper conclusion. According to Rosie O'Donnell, all men suck.
Now, can we talk a little bit about Eric Swalwell? I know that guy. In the what kind of way? Like, spoke to him on the phone a couple times. Donated money to him, I believe. Talked about him in some public appearances years ago about how I believed in him and his cute little family and 2 kids and standing up to all those people when he, berates them for their moralist behavior. And then all this comes out about him. And it's heartbreaking to me. And I wrote him a little message, and I said, Bill Clinton broke my heart, and now you did too. The conclusion I've come to, men suck. Men suck. The way that they are physiologically, they can't sort of control their sexual urges. This is what I find. And all of these things now coming out with Epstein and child abuse in America, and in what communities is it more rampant? And do you think Jeffrey Epstein was the only one running a brothel for children for billionaires? I don't think he was.
And does she really want the answer to that question?
No. Gavin Newsom will anytime a red state deep South governor talks about crime in California, Newsom will point out that their murder rate is actually higher in the deep South, but will not go into the exact statistics showing why. But no, with Rosie, the conclusion of hers should be that I'm a poor judge of character, if that's what keeps happening.
Yes, that is an alternative explanation that is very valid. But of course, she would never grant the alternative either. Are all women angels who have never committed a single piece of wrongdoing, a single sin? I could list a long list of female-related offenses, and if I were to conclude that all women suck, Rosie would tell me I'm wrong. And by the way, she would be correct in telling me that I'm wrong. But my favorite part of that clip is Rosie implies that she has experience that men cannot control their lust.
I doubt it.
No man has ever lusted after Rosie. But did you notice Rosie, I guess, is cultivating the lust? Because as many observed, how hard is that filter working in that she looks better now than she did 40 years ago?
And the thing about men and lust is... I don't think this is true of gay men, but if you're a lesbian, 99% of the time it's by choice. For women, it is a choice, I feel like. For men, it is biological. She chose to be with women because no man is interested in that. So...
You're saying male homosexuality is biological?
Okay, I'm like half joking here. I feel like if you're a gay guy, that's not really a choice. But I feel like with lesbians, women, it's so easy for them to go back and forth. I feel like 90% of women could be lesbians if they wanted to.
I'll save it for another day.
We'll have a whole episode on that great debate.
Yeah. What I want to stick is to Rosie's ideas here. And the thing is, she is kind of right, maybe accidentally. The male urge improperly restrained does lead to immorality. Mm-hmm. That's why we have marriage as an institution. It restrains the male urge.
Weirdest look right now.
she should be for a variety of reasons. Marriage as an institution restrains that male urge to its proper purpose, the creation of family. We are all here as a product of, as much as we don't want to think about it, the male urge, and maybe to a lesser extent the female urge, but the male urge has its purpose, though it also needs its restraint. That's where marriage comes in. Rosie's half right that men suck in that they are imperfect, but women also suck in that they are imperfect. And so marriage also properly restrains women. Speaking of the fickleness, like you were talking about, they're very malleable. They're very moldable. Mm-hmm. Marriage restrains women to a proper commitment to their families instead of being fickle and unprincipled when something maybe more convenient tempts them away from that arrangement. And so women suck and are imperfect in their own ways too. If either betrays the union of marriage, that person sucks. That's why Eric Swalwell sucks, but that's also why lesbianism sucks, Rosie. It's because it also betrays that basic principle that the committed union of man and woman creates new life and restrains distractions away from it. But I'm Rosie O'Donnell, perfect person, all us men, automatically terrible.
The chat, I agree with Palumbo's gay science. So it's settled.
All right. We'll talk about that one another time.
Rosie chose this lifestyle.
I definitely agree that Rosie chose this lifestyle. Or there may have been environmental factors that...
something in the water supply.
It may have been someone's... Well, I don't know. She talks about male lust. I should be fair, because a lot of lesbianism is a product of abusive male behavior. Product of sexual assault or rape or that sort of... I don't know that that's Rosie's case. But there are a lot of women who become fearful of or reject men because of abusive behavior. That is a thing that happens. So maybe. All right.
Yeah.
Whoops. Wrong click. Here we go.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
Classic. The pre-trial proceedings for accused Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson continue. We learned last week that Tyler Robinson wrote something of a confession letter to his transgender roommate boyfriend Lance Twiggs. This, according to prosecutors. Of course, they say Twiggs destroyed the letter and then investigators recreated it. Okay, but supposedly he left this letter confessing to the crime under the keyboard. He sent a text to Twiggs telling him to read the letter. This week, prosecutors told the judge that they have surveillance video of Robinson taking the shot.
The surveillance captures this individual. Again, I don't want to overstate the evidence because the pictures of his face at this time are not as definitive as they were earlier because of the sunglasses and the hat. But it captures his face, captures his appearance, his height, his build, all consistent with how he looks earlier in the day and how he looks today in court. But he makes his way to the rooftop, makes his way to the sniper's perch on the rooftop, takes the shot, and then runs to the northeast, drops off the building, and runs to the northeast of campus into a wooded area. That's all captured on video.
Okay. The claim of this video's existence has appeared in court filings previously, and that's all we have here is a claim in court. We have it in filings. We have it in this prosecutor's claim before the judge. The video, as far as I understand, it's not publicly available. In fact, I know it's not because I've never heard of anyone seeing it, and I haven't seen it. So if someone has it, they're keeping it tightly held. And maybe the video is overstated, as you heard the prosecutor there mention. He's qualifying what the video actually shows, and maybe it's hard to say it's definitively Robinson based on the video alone, but paired together with other evidence, it's a good indicator that it is. A lot of people are saying, well, why wouldn't they show the video? As a general rule, you don't dump all the evidence into the public immediately. Robinson has to get a fair trial. You do have a risk there. If you're the prosecutors in possession of this video and it's not otherwise publicly possessed, presumably the video was recovered from Utah Valley University security, so was never publicly disclosed, publicly posted. Investigators, I assume, have determined it's best to leave the video under wraps until the trial. Or if you're a critic, maybe they need more time to fine-tune the AI to make it look more like Tyler Robinson. Depends on what you already
Mossad
believe.
personally needs to get involved to do that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a case where I think Occam's razor is probably right 99.9% of the time, where the simplest explanation is the true one. And the simplest one would be the guy who confessed to the crime that we now have a video of him committing probably committed the crime. So
just couldn't control his male lust for another male, and this is the way he acted out. Rosie O'Donnell tried to warn us.
Yeah. Well, we're the gay ones who are reading his messages, remember? So
he's got me there. There's no way to argue around that one.
Yeah.
All right, time for an Iran update. I have no idea what to believe about Iran ever, but in particular this weekend. If there's good news about Iran, wait 5 seconds. There'll be some bad news to counter it. In fact, the exact opposite news will come out. If there's bad news about Iran, wait another 5 seconds and the war will be over and the peace will last forever. So markets surged and the price of oil dropped on Friday, and Trump said that Iran has agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz and never close it again. In fact, he told a reporter, Iran has agreed to everything, was the quote. He said Iran has agreed to the unlimited suspension of its nuclear program and that the U.S. would be removing Iran's enriched uranium that apparently exists at the sites that we bombed last summer. So we get everything, was the claim. They get nothing. It's over, supposedly. It's not even my words. Iran agreed to everything, is what the president at least supposedly told a reporter in a phone call on Friday morning. And then Saturday, the news became the complete opposite. Iran's supposed commitment to never to close the strait again lasted maybe 1 day. I don't think it made it even that long in terms of 24 hours. Iran's military said it is closing the Strait of Hormuz, citing the continued American blockade of their ports as the reason. 2 Iranian gunboats then shot at what are apparently 2 oil tankers, 2 Indian oil tankers in the strait. They were carrying oil purchased from Iran, which I'm also not clear. Do you know any details about this? Because if we are blocking Iranian ports, how are Indian ships going to get Iranian oil and then leaving? I don't understand how that gets through the U.S. naval blockade, but I must be missing something.
No. There was also a report they let through an Indian ship and then opened fire on it. So
yeah.
Yeah, it's complete chaos. And I mean, my position is consistent of same as last week's. And this sounds almost like a joke solution, but like we have the biggest military in the world. NATO has a vested interest in this oil. why don't we just take the strait and make it our own? Like we'll just kill more of your leadership, whatever remains, if you don't let us. So it's my plan.
Well, we'll find out if your dream of if it not just power plant and bridge day, but Strait Day comes this week. As of this hour, it appears the Iranian position is the strait is still closed. And I say the Iranian position because when they say they close the strait, it's like, as a practical matter, do they really? Are ships not moving because they're really fearful of Iranian intervention, or is it because of other factors, including the uncertainty about these mines? And that's a big part of the threat, is these mines. But I don't know what to believe about the mines either. Because even if Iran agrees to stop shooting at the ships, the mines theoretically remain. Iran said it put a bunch of mines in the strait. Now, as of 10 days ago, we don't even know where the mines are. We couldn't even get them out of there if we tried. And then the news became Iran is helping the U.S. take the mines out, even though like a week earlier, they didn't know where the mines were. Supposedly, we have the U.S. Navy deploying underwater drones to go get the mines. That was the news. And maybe Iran can help even if they don't know where the mines are. So I guess there's maybe a way in which that makes sense. But the topic came up this week in the MC Club Discord server. Are the mines even real? Are they cardboard mines like a cardboard Ayatollah?
Well, it makes no sense. Like if you expect to have the strait open in the future, which I know Iran does for obvious economic reasons, would you really put that kind of risk out there in not knowing where the mines are? And that, okay, suppose Trump backs down and straight's back open. Some percentage of boats are getting, blown up. That will destroy all future economic activity there, rendering it useless for them. So, no, it makes very little sense.
And if there are mines in the strait, as Iran claims, how is or was Iran allowing select traffic through?
Yes.
There are mines. We don't know where the mines are, but if you're an Indian ship that wants to come buy oil from us, you can pass right through and not hit a mine, and maybe we'll shoot you. Who knows? Until one blows up or is recovered, and if someone has an example of a story describing a mine being recovered and or blowing up, I'm not saying it hasn't happened. I just haven't seen it, and I've done 15 minutes of due diligence searching, and I've asked Grok about it, so it must be. I'm not aware of mine extraction or mine detonation, and until I see one of those things, I am concluding, again, per the topic in the Discord server this week, the mines are hoaxes. They are cardboard mines. They're not real.
I didn't even know sea mines existed until last week. I was like, holy shit, that's horrifying.
I also don't know how they would function. If you would think that they would function. They're detonated based on what? Contact, or are they remote detonated? If they're remote detonated, you know where they are. If they are contact detonated,
who's monitoring that?
And they also would have to be at a certain depth. Like they can't be at the bottom because a ship isn't going to scrape the bottom.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some. I don't know. The mines are a hoax.
There's got to be a YouTube video explaining this somewhere, but another time.
Yeah. Well, negotiations are set for tomorrow, Monday. Again, this is ahead of the ceasefire deadline, the 2-week ceasefire deadline of Tuesday. And that's where we stand right now. It's right back to the negotiating table, even though we heard on Friday that basically everything was agreed to, that we get everything, Iran gets nothing. Now we have to go back to the bargaining table. Trump said earlier today that the U.S. will continue peace talks with an Iranian representative directly face-to-face in Pakistan. Again, this coming tomorrow. This morning, Trump told ABC's Jonathan Karl that peace will happen the nice way or the hard way.
I just spoke to the president about the latest action in the Persian Gulf, the Iranians firing on 2 Indian vessels, 2 Indian ships. The president seemed not overly concerned. He told me it was a serious violation of the ceasefire. But he says the Iranians have committed, and as for the peace deal, the larger peace deal, he said it will happen. It'll either happen the nice way or it'll happen the hard way. You can quote me. That was what the president told me this morning.
Wow.
Okay. I thought the nice way was already agreed to, though. That's the problem.
Yeah. We got some intel in the chat, by the way, about sea mines, but I don't want to derail the conversation.
No, this is actually a good spot to break, because I am curious about the mines and I don't want to forget.
Yes. All right. Let's see. All right. We got how have you never heard of sea mines? I'm retarded. Someone says they're contacted. I say one retarded thing per episode, where after the episode, I'm like, oh, man, I'm glad no one's going to clip it. Hopefully no one clips that. Anyway.
This is shameful.
One says they're moored or floating contact remote acoustic. I don't know if these are like answers
Ways
or just
of-
random words.
Well, if they're floating, then there's no way you don't know where they are.
Yeah.
So
there's really- maybe
I'm not
there's not
saying
as
the chatter
many.
is wrong. I'm saying that can't be compatible with what Iran is saying.
This guy says the mines sit on the bottom and listen for the sound of a ship traveling.
Okay, so that's acoustic detonate. It'd be like some kind of sonar or something.
Then rises to meet it.
Okay.
And then it's things like this that give me brain cancer. Never heard of sea mines. The Civil War had mines. I already said I'm retarded. All right, that's pretty much it. But someone else said it's like magnetic sensors and all that. So that, helps me look less retarded next week.
All right, so we learned that Matt P is
A
retarded.
little.
Okay, all right.
And some sea mine fun facts. For
Got
later.
it. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
sorry
all
to
of that
interrupt.
All of that means that bridge and power plant day is back on. Remember, before the ceasefire, Trump threatened to bomb bridges and power plants in Iran if they don't surrender. Maybe we're going to wipe out a whole civilization. I don't know if that threat is back on or not. This morning, he is saying the same thing about the bridges and the power plants, though. He posted on Truth Social, "We're offering a very fair and reasonable deal, and I hope they take it, because if they don't, the United States is going to knock out every single power plant and every bridge in Iran. No more Mr. Nice Guy." We also have unclarity, confusion about who's going to lead the negotiations in Iran tomorrow. I gather this is settled now, I think, but there was very confusing communication earlier today. UN Ambassador Mike Walls said this morning with Jonathan Karl at ABC that J.D. Vance will lead the negotiations as he had previously. Then Trump told Jonathan Karl that J.D. Vance is not going to lead the negotiations because Secret Service is not confident they could provide security with just 24 hours notice. Then another U.S. official, unnamed, told John Karl that Vance is going to Pakistan and will lead the discussions as previously described. So I assume as of now that's the plan. Vance is going. He leads it again. But again, Vance is doing it. No, he's not. Yes, he is. The strait is open. No, it's not. There's a ceasefire, but they're shooting. I don't know what to believe about anything in the Iran situation. And I know that results are more important than rock solid communication. Mm-hmm. But man, am I confused with just about every single piece of the way this war has been conducted. Up is down, down is up. Everything changes within a matter of hours. And who knows? Of course, I hope for something good to come out of discussion tomorrow. And I hope that the permanent peace with the infinite opening of the Strait of Hormuz is the result. But if that's the news, I'm gonna expect it to last at least 72 hours before I believe it.
My favorite flip-flop was when Trump made the comments about destroying or about decimating an entire civilization. And then liberals were like accusing him of being genocidal. And then he obviously did not destroy an entire civilization. And the same liberals were like, pussy.
Yeah, exactly.
People believe nothing.
He can still prove them wrong. They should be careful
Hopefully
what they
not.
wish for.
Did I send you the CNBC coverage of that?
I don't think so. I don't think I saw it.
I'll reenact it. This woman is reading Trump's tweet.
Is this going to go as well as the sea mine conversation?
It'll be better.
Okay.
So this reporter, it's Sarah something, she's reading Trump's tweet where she's like, so destroying...
You sent this to me and I played it on Wednesday. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. I knew we talked. All right,
you weren't on the show. You weren't on the stream where I played it, but I did play it.
Oh, okay. Good. But anyway, to anyone who missed it, CNBC's biggest concern with Trump potentially nuking all of Iran was, should we go long or short the market in response?
Yeah. Is this
good for investors or
an
bad?
Earnings opportunity, or is it not?
I'm not going to lie. I think that way too, but to say it online straight on TV, straight faced is incredible.
Well, in other news, Hennepin County District Attorney Mary Moriarty announced this week she has filed charges against an ICE agent, but not the famous instances of Alex Preddy and Renee Good, at least not yet, though she did imply those charges are coming. There's just additional investigation needed, so I would expect that's probably the direction she's going. But this is what she said, not just a first in her prosecution of Operation Metro Surge, which was the ICE presence in Minneapolis over the last few months. She says this is a first of its kind charge in the country, as in local law enforcement charging an ICE agent. Now, we have had local law enforcement charge federal agents before, say, for things like getting a DUI while you partied too hard when you were off duty, or just because you're a federal agent doesn't mean you can go commit a crime in that jurisdiction and be immune. But generally speaking, we don't have charges filed for things done while on duty. Although, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Idaho tried to prosecute the Ruby Ridge shooter in Idaho State Court. I can't remember the exact history of how that played out, but I remember he didn't get, somehow he got away from the Idaho state justice system. But that's an example I can think of where a guy was at least attempted to be prosecuted for on-duty Fed action, which of course his on-duty Fed action was shooting a mom holding a baby. Yeah. And then they promoted him to go to Waco. Good job, man.
That's a great choice.
Anyway, this incident, I didn't hear about it at the time. What she's prosecuting now, this happened February 5th. An ICE agent allegedly pointed a gun at another driver in traffic. Here's Moriarty announcing the charge.
Today, our office has charged Gregory Donnell Morgan, an Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE agent, with 2 counts of second-degree assault. On February 5th, Mr. Morgan was driving illegally on the shoulder of eastbound Highway 62, appearing to attempt to bypass slower traffic. The victim, who was driving, briefly moved their vehicle into the shoulder to slow him down. After the victim's vehicle moved back into the legal lane, Mr. Morgan sped up to pull alongside the victim's vehicle. Mr. Morgan then visibly slowed his vehicle to match the pace of the victim's vehicle, opened his window, and pointed his duty weapon directly at both victims in the other vehicle while continuing to drive illegally on the shoulder.
Okay.
She sounds hideous.
As described,
probably a dude.
That does sound kind of bad, pointing a gun for what she's describing as a traffic dispute, if that is what happened. But some things to consider. Do you have a thought? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and I know this is going to sound like a lazy point, but it's true. Even if we were to say everything the ICE guy did was bad, if it was someone from, a group that is on the left's oppression pyramid, would they have been charged? And I think the answer is no. And I'll have some examples.
Do we even know this is a white guy, though?
Oh, you know what? You're right, because they are. Well, here's the thing, though.
His name sounds kind of white. Gregory Morgan Jr. I don't know.
Okay, but here's the thing. If in their eyes, ICE is Nazi, so the race then it becomes irrelevant. In fact, in light of the Nazi designation, I think that's how their math works.
Well, some things to consider in terms of how this played out. The incident happened after Preddy and Good and the rest of the outrage. So ICE agents were on the lookout for attacks. Minneapolis police were not protecting them. That doesn't mean that an ICE agent can do no wrong, but it does help me understand the position they were in and why they might not be interested in messing around. Number two, so far we only have the prosecutor's side of the story. There is very likely more to this story. There is limited video of the incident available. There was a traffic camera that caught some of it. There's no audio to it. But what you'll see is a car come under this overpass, and you can see it try to cut off this ICE car that's black in the shoulder here on the right side. Then that ICE vehicle, as she describes, drives slowly alongside that car. And according to her and according to the victims, who she's describing as the victims, the ICE agents pointed a gun as they were slowly passing that car. And depending on the way you interpret the statement of the ICE agent who agreed to a voluntary interview, you could say that he also admitted to pointing the gun. I wouldn't say that he admitted to pointing it based on this characterization. He did say that he feared for his safety when he was cut off on the highway. He said he drew his firearm and yelled, "Police, stop." So he admits that he drew it. Did he point it at them? That's not what he said here, or at least in this characterization, in this reporting. I haven't seen video or an image of him pointing it.
Yeah.
But
Just some advice to anyone who finds themselves in this situation: don't talk to the cops at all without a lawyer. It can only hurt you in that kind of situation, and it seems like he may have accidentally gave information that could potentially be incriminating.
I mean, it just says
don't say
voluntary
anything.
Voluntary interview. I don't know if he did it with a lawyer or not, but you're right that you don't. If it's voluntary,
don't
by
give
definition,
any new info.
You don't have to do it. Yeah. But it's not just wise advice when you're accused of anything or suspected of anything. When you are looking at this woman and you know what she thinks about your job, it's definitely a good time to shut the hell up. I agree. Okay. Now, you can see in that video, you saw the car appear to intentionally cut off the ICE car. And you might think, well, that's just how do we know that's not just like a mistaken merge in traffic and it escalated, it got out of hand. Again, as she's describing, the lane on the right there is not actually a lane of traffic. It is the shoulder. So there's no real reason for this person to be merging into that lane. She insists that these quote unquote victims, as she calls them, the drivers, the people in the car that cut off the ICE car, that they had no knowledge that this was an ICE vehicle because this was a rented vehicle. It wasn't marked ICE. No knowledge whatsoever. I don't buy that at all.
I doubt it.
I think they knew exactly who they were dealing with, or they suspected it. We've seen those videos. I think you sent them to me, Matt. There was just a guy who drove an SUV with tinted windows.
Yeah,
and
they were harassing him.
They had like a mob trial for him in public. So I don't believe her description for a second that these people, I didn't know who that was. Why would you try that aggressive cutoff move?
Yeah.
Were you just road raging yourself because you didn't like the way this guy was driving? Whatever the full truth of how this played out is, I don't believe for a second that they had no suspicion or knowledge that it was an ICE vehicle. I think that's exactly why they behaved the way they did, but that's just my guess based on what I can see on the video. I
didn't see a gun in the video, I will say.
It's too far away. It's too hard to tell.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But
the guy said he drew it. I believe him. There's no reason he would lie about drawing a weapon if it didn't happen. It's not in his interest.
That's why you should have just shut up, because you don't. If they can't prove you drew it, you didn't draw it then. So
now, whatever the whole truth of what happened here is, Mary Moriarty is going to have legal hurdles to attempt this prosecution. I'm not extremely keen on this area of law. The truth is, I'm not extremely keen on any of them. I'm just a pretend lawyer. I like to act like I have knowledge, but I don't. So don't quote me. Go do what I ask Grok yourself. Do your own due diligence. However, in my general understanding, federal law enforcement has legal immunity from state prosecution for actions taken in their official duties. These agents at the time, by their own description and by Mary Moriarty's description, were driving back to the Whipple Federal Building at Fort Snelling to end their shift. And that's the same building where Savannah Hernandez was attacked, where Maga Tyson was attacked. There's a lot going on down there, too. So is driving back to their home base of operation an official duty, or is this personal time? Mary Moriarty is going to argue that these agents were not actually engaged in official duty at the time.
We know that the vice president insisted that federal agents have absolute immunity. That is not true. They do not have absolute immunity. What could happen is that a federal agent who is charged could ask a federal court to remove the case from state court to federal court. Our office will still be prosecuting it, whether it's state court or federal court. As part of that, we would expect a federal agent to assert a supremacy clause defense, but that requires, and the burden is on the agent to show that what they were doing was within the scope of their authority as a federal agent. Our opinion is that illegally driving on a shoulder, pulling up to a car and pointing a gun at the heads of two community members who are not doing anything at the time is well beyond the scope of their authority as federal agents. And there is no such thing as absolute immunity for federal agents who violate the law in the state of Minnesota or any other state.
Now, as far as absolute immunity, I think she's arguing against a little bit of a straw man there. I don't think anyone was saying that the feds can come to your state and just by virtue of being feds, they can walk up and murder someone on their own time. Although I guess sometimes they kind of do that. But I just mean like a Fed off duty in cargo shorts and flip-flops walks up and just puts one in the back of your head. Pretty sure that's going to be prosecuted as murder, successfully so. So even these claims about immunity that she's characterizing as absolute, maybe the choice of the word absolute was poor. I don't know if J.D. Vance said that or not, but clearly what they're talking about is absolute immunity within the scope of their official duty, not to do anything on their own time. So I don't know that her legal theory is super solid, but they're going to attempt it, it sounds like.
One thing that stood out is, one of the things the media always does, and even like DAs, because legally they kind of have to, is there could be a video of someone shooting someone in the head, and it still has to be alleged shooter, alleged victim. She never used the word alleged when it came to the victims. Tim pointed that out in the chat. Yeah. And then when he said he raised the gun at their heads, we don't know that. We have, in fact, even the admission didn't say he raised it at their heads. No. So she didn't say allegedly. So she clearly has already made her mind up. And to kind of go at the point I was making earlier, that she treats different groups differently. She is, everyone had talked about years ago, George Soros getting far left DAs elected to our cities.
I heard some people wrote about that guy.
I would never plug a book that I have in front of me.
That's Alex, but there's also a book on George. Yeah.
Yeah. But so when I wrote the book about George, it was all those DAs, but I had, in researching Alex, found out that he has also been funding a lot of similar DAs, and Mary, the Subaru American, is one of them. And she went, there's all these crazy cases with her. Like, there was one where a cop was pulling someone over. The cop tried to, the driver tried to pull the cop into the guy's car and then accelerate, and the cop took a shot at the guy. Every expert consulted said it was a justifiable use of force, and she still tried to prosecute the cop anyway. Tim Walz got involved to get her to drop the charges.
Wow.
So there was another case. This was right after she took office. She inherited a murder case where it was two teenagers, I believe they're 18 years old, broke into a woman's house to rob it, killed her. She tried to negotiate a plea deal where they'd only serve 2 years in a juvenile prison. It was so outrageous that Keith Ellison and Tim Walz intervened to block it. So that's how effed up in the head this woman is.
Wow.
Yeah.
He'll be friends with school shooters, but he'll be friends with school shooters.
He draws the line at Mary the Subaru American.
I won't have Subaru slandered in this way, although I don't have time.
Do you drive one?
I'm a big Subaru fan. But
really?
We talked about this. Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yes. Yeah. We could talk about this at length.
Well, technically, if you're a guy into women, you're a lesbian. So,
if you want an all-wheel drive turbocharged manual transmission car, there are very few of those available. Yeah. So it's a very niche market. But
we'll debate this another show.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about defending Subaru honor and whether being gay is inherent. But you've totally redeemed yourself. Everybody who was mad about his sea mine lack of knowledge, he has a lot of Mary Moriarty knowledge, so he's back.
Yes.
Okay. Complicating the matter, getting back to this particular prosecution, we don't yet know really who this guy even is or what his current circumstances are. When I say this guy, I mean the ICE agent Gregory Morgan, the guy she's just charged. There's a warrant out for his arrest that is theoretically nationwide, though who's going to be dispatched to go get him? Like, are you going to use U.S. Marshals or something? No. You think Trump is going to deploy federal agents to go find him wherever he is? No. So you're going to have to talk to, I assume, either like send Minnesota personnel to wherever he is or talk to the people in that state to arrest him, which maybe is a path. I'm not saying it's a practical impossibility, but the difficulty is they don't know where he lives or even if he's employed by ICE anymore. They think he lives in Maryland. That's the last address they have for him, but they don't know for sure. And as of yesterday, April 18th, a spokesperson for Moriarty's office said there is no knowledge of Morgan being arrested yet. She was saying, I just hope he turns himself in.
Yeah,
he was foolish already in talking to you. He's not going to turn himself in, I don't think.
I feel like there's this whole loophole where if you're ever politically targeted and charged, if you just go to Florida and get some media coverage and DeSantis finds out about it, you're never going to get extradited. So you have kind of your own sanctuary in like deep red states in theory.
You know, lawyers, if there are people with knowledge in this area, I'd be curious to hear what are the rules around like obligations to arrest fugitives from another state? Are states required to do that? Can they just say no?
It comes to mind because DeSantis said he would not extradite Trump. This is before if he was actually convicted or had to do a jail sentence. So Trump could just camp in Florida then.
So I don't know how this is going to play out, but it's not only is she going to try it here. I would expect her to draw up some kind of case against the guys involved in the Preddy and Good cases as well. But we'll see how that develops. Now, it's rare that I unironically issue a trigger warning, but I think this case actually deserves one. It's not graphic. It's not obscene, at least visually. You probably already saw it on X this week or saw it. It's going viral. So odds are I'm not the first person to reveal it to you. But it is a hideously flagrant denial of the rights of a child. Now, another reason for a trigger warning, the name of the guy involved. I have never seen a more unfortunate name for a gay guy. Or maybe this is his stage. It sounds like a name maybe he would pick intentionally. I don't know. But the guy involved here is gay country songwriter Shane McAnally. How does he like it? McAnally.
That's disgusting.
How does Ronald do it? McAnally. Supposedly
maybe it's McAnally.
That's what they say. It's McAnally, I think. It's how it's supposed to. I insist it is McAnally. Now, Shane and his husband Michael, not Michael Bum. Michael likes it it's Michael Baum. All right. Shane and his husband Michael have a baby boy born in October by surrogacy. They also have two older kids, twin boy and girl. And as far as I'm not clear who the actual dad is here. I assume one of these guys. It sounds like two gay guys rented a womb to get the kid they can't naturally have. We do know the baby was born by surrogacy. Okay. Already bad enough. But McAnally posted a video in which the baby boy is saying mama. And the two dads are laughing at him because there is no mama. There is only dada and pop.
Who do you want, dada or pop?
Mama.
No, mama. Do you want dada or pop? No. Do you want dada? You want pop? No way, Jose. There is no mama. I'm so sorry. You have dada and pop. You have pop. Two choices. No mama. No. No mama. Dada or pop. No.
It's the cackling of, I think it's Shane taking the video. It's the cackling in the background that really gets me. But there is another video in which McAnally jokes that the baby is homophobic because the baby doesn't appear thrilled when told how lucky he is to have two dads.
You're such a happy boy. Yeah, you are. Yeah, because you have a brother. Yeah, and you have a sister. Yeah, and you have two puppies. And two dads. Oh.
Okay. Social media reaction has been harshly critical, rightly so. Why is the harsh criticism correct? Because human life is created by one method, the combination of mother and father. Each child is owed his mother and father. Each mother and father has a responsibility to that child because it is through his mother and father that child has stability, proper role models, the best pathway to success. Other arrangements, like this one, prioritize adult desires over the interests and rights of the child, exactly as Katie Faust explained right here on this show a few weeks ago. Why is this kid in this situation? The reason this kid is in this situation is because these dads think that butt sex with each other is the most important thing. They have prioritized their butt sex over the rights and interests of the children. That sounds crude, but that is the truth of the matter. The child's interests have been sacrificed in order to maintain the butt sex. And that's why he's named McAnally. But McAnally, sorry, you look like you're going to throw up. Do you?
I want to kill everyone involved in this story. Not
in
the
mine,
kid,
in
not the kid,
Minecraft,
but yeah, in Minecraft. Which, by the way, that defense did not hold up in court when it was tried. So we need a new video game to.
Oh, that actually was attempted legally?
Yeah, it didn't hold up. So maybe like I'll kill them in Call of Duty. It's more believable. You know?
Okay, right.
Yeah,
okay.
in COD, I'll kill these people.
McAnally is not taking the criticism well. In fact, he is doubling down. He tells the Daily Mail that he is shocked by the furious reaction online. He says it was supposed to be self-deprecating humor. Hilarious, because the baby doesn't even speak English.
Wrong. These people are just way too comfortable. If they posted this not realizing the backlash.
Yeah, not foreseeing this reaction does speak to a very wide disconnect with the truth of the matter and what the rights of children actually are.
Yeah,
but what's the joke? Haha, this baby's interests were sacrificed for my sexual preferences. That's the least funny joke I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I promise you that when this poor baby is old enough and he becomes a man one day and he looks at this, he is not going to, when he does understand English, when he's a fully developed man who looks at this video, maybe one day he will, it's not going to be, haha, oh, that's just dad and pop joking around like they always did when I was growing up. That's not funny, man. It's not going to be funny to your kid.
Or the kid's going to be brainwashed into oblivion. And that is also the unfortunate alternative. But,
and that's quite possibly going to happen, but the truth has a nasty habit of coming out. And you can raise your kid in whatever delusion you want. The truth will confront them one day. And when it does, it makes you a bad parent when you didn't prepare them for that truth.
It reminds me, this is a headline on The Onion like 20 years ago when it was actually funny, and it was a picture of a gay pride parade, and the headline was gay pride parade sets back acceptance of gay people another 50 years.
Yeah.
That's basically every story like this. Like they don't have any self-awareness at all. There was a good 5 years where the narrative was like, we were just like everybody else. We just want marriage. It's all we want, just to be like everyone else. And it's not true at all.
All of this rests on the premise that you have a right to a child. You do not. No. You might have a right to your own children, but you don't have a right to create children through these unnatural means, take them away from their moms, and shove them into the world in which your sexual preferences rule the day. There is no such right. This is a made-up nonsense right that is actually a betrayal of the rights of children. McAnally says he doesn't understand because actually he considers himself quite conservative politically.
False. Nah, I don't believe you. Okay, you want tax cuts. I'll give you that, but you're not a conservative.
Yeah, well, if you sacrifice your children's interests for your own sexual preferences, you are not conservative. You are degenerate. And by the way, this isn't even an anti-gay thing strictly. That goes for a dad who cheats on his wife. You have betrayed your family. That is immoral for the same reasons that you prioritized your sexual lust, Rosie O'Donnell, your sexual urge, your sexual preferences over the interests of your children. There are many ways in which straight people can engage in the same sort of immorality. But it does apply to the gay dads who intentionally exclude mom from the child's life. This baby boy, like every other baby born, has a mother. He's entitled to that mom. He has a right to that mom. That mom could and should and would provide him with the best upbringing, the best development that he could have. Instead, mom has been torn away in service to the butt sex, and it's hilarious, supposedly. It's also a context problem. Everybody's just taking it out of context. That was the other explanation.
Call of Duty.
That's important context too. Yeah. I was appalled by what some people have been saying. Some people have taken that out of context. No, we all understand the context. Yeah. And if you think it is a mere joke to remove a mom from a baby's life like this, cram it into your sexual preferences instead. That's not a joke. There is no context in which that is appropriate or funny, because in every context, a good parent prioritizes the interests of his or her child over his own. Good parents sacrifice for their children. They don't make their children sacrifice for them. And by design, the design of two gay dads using surrogacy to produce a child in this way, in principle, in its origin, this arrangement makes children sacrifice for their parents. There is no way around that simple fact, whether you're making a serious argument in a debate or whether you're making a stupid joke on Instagram or wherever this was to get a few laughs. There is no way around that simple truth. It took male and female, mom and dad, to make this baby, and you stole mom away from that baby intentionally. Laugh about it all you want. It doesn't soften the harsh truth.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying the other week, like, at least with gay adoption, you know, if you were going to argue in favor of it, you could argue, well, there's a hierarchy of good and bad. So you have, you know, the best outcome of mom and dad. Obviously, you know, two dads is inferior outcome. But if having no parents and being an orphan is, you know, way down here, well, then, you know, it's at least a better alternative. But yeah. It seems like they're not adopting. They're making test tube babies and doing surrogacy. And they're just, and it's always a boy, too, which don't know why, but always is.
Whatever the whoever's arranging the surrogacy for the guy named McAnally, just don't. Anyway, okay, I could do a whole show about this, but I'm not going to. I want to get into your story about Julius Malema before we get to some super chat, and we'll get to our segment with John. So what do you got on Julius Malema?
So I'll start with some background. I think people probably know who he is, but I'll just read through some of that just before I explain the case and some parts of why it's hilarious. So he runs a political party called the Economic Freedom Fighters. They, by their own artwork, are spear chuckers. It's not me saying this. This is their own. It's their
Black Lives Matter fist with a spear.
Yeah, it's their own logo. They're the ones who did this, not me. But they are the third largest political party in South Africa. They split from the ANC, Mandela's party, but they've been in charge since the end of apartheid and have been doing a horrible job. They are a far left party. Mandela obviously was a communist. The EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters, are a communist political party, but they are much more explicit in being racist against white people. The ANC is as well, but the EFF makes very, very violent comments and threats. So I made a list of some of them, which I think a lot of people are familiar with. But those are their election results. So they are they've always been in opposition, but again, they're the third biggest party. So in 2016, Malema told his supporters to seize white-owned land, and this is while he was being tried on charges of inciting violent property grabs. So I guess he doubled down on that. He repeatedly
didn't even say in Minecraft, do it for real.
He just did it right out there. Yeah. He repeatedly chants at the song "Kill the Boer," white farmers.
I have rallies. The clip. If people you want to hear 20 seconds of "Kill the Boer," his famous. All right, here. Yeah. Let's see. It's this one.
And I learned in researching this, the ANC decided to also stop using that chant at their rallies in 2012. So they at least stopped in a decade ago.
So Mandela's party was doing this as recently as 12, 13 years ago?
They were chanting.
14
years ago,
Mandela
he was a psychopath. But so in 2016, Malema was asked if he's calling for the slaughter of white people, and he said, no, at least not for now, which means yes.
Right. I remember that one.
And then 3 years later, he posted a quote, "The only white man you can trust is a dead white man." In 2018, actually this was a year before the last quote I read, he told supporters to quote unquote, "Go after a white man. We are cutting the throat of whiteness." And then tried to downplay it as, no, not white people, whiteness as a system, which, if I said, let's go kill some blackness, I don't think I'd get away with that.
Yeah, probably not.
But anyway, so of this case, he was... so let me just go through my notes 1 second. He was at a rally in 2018, and he had an illegal firearm, which he fired in the air in celebration. as an American, I think it's a pretty lame thing to be charged for. But given who he is, I'm all in favor of it.
I think you'd be charged in every state for
Really?
that, though. Yeah, for
I guess
firing
you're creating danger
in
with
the air.
bullet coming down. Yeah, you know what? I take that back. So anyway, I'm still glad he's charged. I'm more glad than 20
especially in a
seconds
crowd.
ago.
It's not just like on your ranch land out in the middle of nowhere. It's in a crowded environment in some kind of celebration. So yeah.
You know what? I take back my first point. Anyway, so there's a group called Afroforum, and we had Ernst Van Zyl.
That's right. Thank you for reminding me, because Ernst Van Zyl, Afroforum was the guy.
Yeah, so he's been on this show. He's been
Yeah.
on this show before, but he has PR for Afroforum, and they, a month after the incident, had pressed forward and trying to get charges pressed. It has taken since 2018 to get this guy charged, but he's sentenced to 5 years in prison, and there was fines that totaled about 4,000 USD, or there was an option to serve a year in jail in lieu of the fines. So I guess a year in jail in South Africa is worth $5,000 by their or $4,000 by their math. But one of the funniest bits was the judge sentencing him is a white woman, which had to have been hard for his ego. But his whole legal team, every lawyer is white.
Of course, the guys he hired?
Yeah, he only hires white lawyers.
I assume he didn't have a public defender, right? That was his... Okay.
No. So he said of the criticism, it is true. I'm represented by white lawyers. They will represent us today, tomorrow, and any time we want. We choose our own lawyers, and we know which are best.
What?
And this guy wants to kill white people and take their land. And then I sent you on Reddit in 2020, I guess in some other case he was part of, he was also criticized for only hiring white lawyers.
Oh, I think I might have missed that link. Sorry, but
no, it's all good. But people can imagine what it says. Yeah. But so anyway, to wrap up the story, the way it works, and I don't know if this is just for his case in South Africa's legal system or all of them, but while the case is on appeal and he's appealing it, he doesn't have to be in jail. So if he appeals and it gets overturned, there's no jail time. But if the appeal fails, then he'll have to serve the sentence. Yeah. And he can't be a member of parliament for 5 years after leaving prison, too. So this could keep him out of parliament for 5 years.
He's currently in still, or is he
he's the leader of the party. He's still in politics, and he can still be politically active until he's in jail. So it could take him out of politics for 10 years.
How are the majority parties not expelling him?
I don't know.
I don't know what the rules in South African parliament are, but... Yeah. It's a minority party to begin with, so there can't be a lot of
party it could happen next. It could happen next. Who knows? But I don't see anything on it yet. Yeah. So
maybe we should get Mr. Van Zyl back on the show.
Cool.
He could explain some of this too. I'd like to talk to him again. He's a good guy.
I know too. He's the president of the council that governs Orania. It's like an Afrikaner only settlement within South Africa. And he's extremely knowledgeable about these issues as well and all that. So I could try him as well. But we'll talk behind the scenes.
All right. Well, thank you for your update on Mr. Malema. Before we get into some super chat, hey, have you considered joining the MC Club? Well, you should. Here's why. Hey, if you enjoy the show, please consider supporting the show by becoming a member of the MC Club. For as little as $1 a month, you will enjoy a series of exclusive perks, including ad-free videos and podcasts, video calls, and a community Discord server with me and other listeners, loot box giveaways with channel merchandise, your name in the credit roll after videos and streams, and much more. But most importantly, you will help keep the Duct Tape production alive and independent from all those sinister forces of control. Join the MC Club at mattchristiansenmedia.com/support. Linked in the description. All right, catch up with some super chat. We'll get into our John Doyle segment over on YouTube. Aaron Molo. Going on an honor flight tomorrow with my dad. Our goal is, our tour rather, is going to include a stop at the National Air and Space Museum because we'll have the last surviving crew member from the Enola Gay with us. Wow, that's really cool.
Awesome.
We love you. You're very special.
Thanks for supporting the show, and thanks for honoring those who deserve honor as well. That's a really cool moment for your life. So all the best to you and your dad. That's going to be awesome. Injured Guardian. Damn it. Y'all keep setting up great jokes based on references y'all won't get. Can I tag in Frank and Batman? What's in the bottle? I arrived late. Inquiry about your beverage. What?
It's San Pellegrino. Just sparkling water that they mark up an extra buck or two. But I like the presentation.
Thank you, Injured Guardian. We'll try to do better with our references. But, sea mines, proper pronunciation of epitome, some things escape us. Anyway, your friend Lowbrow. Can't wait to see Christiansen's take on the dead rat swag. Oh, this is what you were...
I was telling you before the show, I couldn't figure out if it was a real thing or parody or not, but he shared with me a story where it was a picture of Malema with like a dead rat necklace, claiming that he was wearing it to fend off bad luck ahead of his trial. And I saw some things that said it wasn't true, so I just figured I'd shelve it.
And there's no image. We have no image confirmation of this.
I have the
rat.
image of it. People were saying it was photoshopped, so I thought, I don't want to accidentally. I thought I'd err on the side of not reporting it, but it could be true.
We don't need a defamation lawsuit from Julius Malema.
Julius Malema, yeah.
I don't even know if he can do that internationally.
Probably not.
Maybe he'd try. He'd get his white lawyers on it very quickly. Thank you, Lowbrow. Appreciate it.
If it is true, I apologize to Lowbrow for doubting him.
Maybe he has more evidence that we didn't see.
Yeah, he'll be Facebook chatting me as we speak.
Esoterica Unbound. Sorry, do you have another thought?
Oh, no. Go ahead.
All right. Esoterica Unbound. I've never heard of sea mines. There goes any regard I had for Matt. You still have to highly regard him.
He never had any regard for me.
You need to look up the quote, "Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead." The only reason I know that is because it was referenced in The Simpsons once. See, I don't know the origin of references. I just know that they say things in The Simpsons. And I remember that old guy from the nursing home said, "I want some taquitos," when Bart said, "Damn the torpedoes" on that ship. It's a famous line uttered by Union Admiral David Farragut during the Battle of Mobile Bay on August 5th, 1864, during the Civil War. That's the origin of that.
Nice.
Injured Guardian. Iran is mining now. I think I did say that. Of course, I mean dropping mines or placing mines, not mining as in like extracting metals. And I say, awesome, mining for what? Maybe I could invest in it. Oh, the other kind of mining. The Prince of Persia sucks. Do they mine in Iran, like mining, searching for precious metals or other things buried deep in the earth? I don't know. I don't know what their industry is other than oil and I guess jihad. They do a lot of that too. Thank you, Injured Guardian. Esoterica Unbound. The charges against Vicky Weaver's killer were dropped when a Democrat was elected in place of the incumbent state prosecutor. Okay, so that was political decision rather than a legal technicality. Thank you for reminding me on that, because that's an area of Ruby Ridge I don't know much about, how all the legal aftermath played out. So, interesting case. Thank you, Esoterica. Newbie says Whisker Biscuit. I don't know what Whisker Biscuit is. But I'm glad it's all caps and there's an exclamation point. So I'm glad he's enthusiastic about it.
It's probably a movie reference.
Esoterica Unbound. Certain Subarus are a niche market, indeed, just like the double-ended SKS toys. What this is? Okay. It took me a second to even realize that was a lesbian joke.
You can fuck off.
I think we talked about this on Wednesday, so I'm not going to get back into it. I think the lesbian claim about Subaru. There's a lot of things you can criticize Subaru for, just like any car manufacturer. I think the lesbian thing is so overstated, though. We were talking, Batman, Skulldugger and I were talking about this, and full disclosure, we're all, I know Batman is a Subaru driver. I don't know if Skulldugger is. But like, how often have you actually seen lesbians driving a Subaru? And in fact, if there's a stereotype, I think it's like probably like progressive looking soccer moms more than lesbians.
According to the Google machine. And granted, this is research from the 1990s, so obviously it's outdated. But back then, they said lesbians were 4 times more likely to purchase one compared to the average consumer.
This
but
was
obviously,
what year?
lesbians are probably only like, 1 or 2% of the female population. So they're still probably a minority, but they're overrepresented. Hence the stereotype.
We need Rosie's opinion. She could settle this. Yeah. You said that was what year?
The 90s. But according,
see, I think that's, maybe Once Upon a Time.
But according to a more recent study from gaywheels.com, both gay men and lesbians believe Subaru is the most gay-friendly car company. So they got good PR.
Bingo.
That I could believe. They do have a lot of progressive nonsense propaganda in their PR, which is one reason I do think they deserve criticism. Yeah. Even though I'm an appreciator of their car design, I think it's great. Yeah. But thank you, Esoteric Unbound, VV, Bum, and McAnally. That is all. On a serious note, that video is depressing. The kid looks well out of the womb, still hasn't forgotten his mother. Yeah, he's 5 months old. And as Katie Faust explained on this show, whether your mom dies in a car accident when you are a baby, or your mom has been intentionally removed from your life in this way, that baby boy, if God willing, he grows to be an old man and he's 80 years old sitting in his rocking chair. If his mom is not a part of his life, and I don't know what the plans for that are here, maybe those guys, maybe McAnally and Bum want to include mom. I don't know. But let's say they don't. Situations where mom is excluded intentionally after the surrogacy arrangement, that poor kid will be an 80-year-old man in his rocking chair wondering about his mother, who she was, why she opted to give him up, what her role in his life could have been, should have been, would have been. That wonder, that need for your mom never, ever goes away. And I'm going to admit to an emotional break, actually, because I don't cry very often. Even in situations of actual tragedy in my life, I haven't cried very much. I certainly don't cry at movies, TV shows, books, entertainment.
So you've never seen the movie Click, then?
I have. I've reviewed it.
That's the only movie.
I will tell you.
I'll actually, dude, they told me it was a comedy, and then they really throw a curveball at you with that movie.
You seriously cried from Click?
I was like 12 years old.
Okay,
Yeah, I was expecting
that.
Okay, all the advertisements for it were, it's just going to be the funniest movie ever, and then it's, oh, just kidding, he destroyed his whole life and his family hates him, and I mean, I liked how at the end they undid it all, but still, the movie got me, man.
Are you a homosexual?
No, I don't drive a Subaru.
I'll tell you what got me. I was reading that famous book to my sons maybe a few months ago, where it's a mom reading the book to her baby boy. I'll love you forever. I'll love you always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be. And it progresses through the life of that mom and son until one day that son is watching his mom die. And even thinking about it, it still kind of gets me, because it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter if you're a 5-month-old who's saying mama. It doesn't matter if you're 60 or 50 and you're watching your mom's final breath. That connection is irreplaceable. It doesn't change. It's just as important. My connection with my mom is just as important to me as a grown man as it was because I know that my parents will always be there. At least as long as they're living, they will always be there to support me and my family, and I will pay that forward and do that the same for my boys. That's why I tear up. I know how important
it was. Extra heartbreaking in that the kid knew how to say "mama" despite not being around one. Like intuitive, like obviously I don't know what a 5-month-old understands, but certainly seemed to realize something was missing and knew how to identify it, which is.
You are mistaken. Yeah. That baby doesn't know English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Actually, I was reading, there's theory that the term mom, mama, it kind of came from babies because those are some of the easiest sounds to make, so babies just make those sounds.
I saw something on that, because I've been watching like random kid videos to try to, I don't know, teach my daughter how to speak faster. Yeah. But they said mama and dada, whatever a baby observes a face, those sounds are the most common or the easiest. So that's why in every language it's kind of the same word. But
my 7-month-old is dada nonstop, so team dada.
Cool.
I've won the race yet again.
Good.
Thank you, Vivi. Excuse me. Survive 2030. Putting a child in the hands of a lesbian or gay partner should be categorized as child abuse. I want to Fed post so bad right now. Well, thank you for keeping it YouTube chat approved. And compliant. And it's like you were saying, I don't think that adopting an existing child is the exact same thing as this sort of arrangement where a parent is intentionally removed.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, to what degree do you actually get one without the other? If you're not extremely clear on the principles at play, it's very easy to think that they're actually the same thing, that there aren't moral differences between them. And this is not me saying that gay adoption is automatically good. I have questions about that too, but the moral distinction I'm drawing is that at least it is not intentionally creating life or creating life with the intent of removing a parent from that child's life. So
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I was explaining earlier, it's like a hierarchy where it's you could argue it's better than having no parents at all, but it's objectively worse than having a loving mother and father. And liberals always do this dumb thing if you argue against gay adoption, where they're like, "Oh, so you'd rather be with like a heterosexual couple that abuses their kids and puts cigarettes out on them? You're saying that's preferable?"
Yeah.
Like, no,
take the worst possible.
Actually, we're not. Yeah.
As though like these outliers erase the rule,
Yeah. Yep.
VV says, Matt, during your Wednesday show, I'd like you to talk to Robert about this gay couple and the baby story from a biblical and or moral order perspective. Hope you're open to it. I certainly am if Robert's up for it. I can't commit to it right now because I just don't. Number one, I don't know when Robert's going to be back on, and number two, I don't know what he would want to do about that or not. So I don't want to put him on the spot and say, you have to do this. But obviously, I care about this story and this topic quite a lot. The biblical angle is one area that I haven't really explored it. It's the Katie Faust stuff. She mentioned Christianity in passing, but it was the moral topics that were not explicitly Christian. Neither was the discussion tonight. So if you wanted it, if you want it from a more explicitly Christian framing, I'm happy to do that too, because I also would be curious to understand this episode more from a scriptural perspective. So suggestion noted, and thank you for supporting the show. Esoterica Unbound, just remember, same-sex marriage is just about live and let live. It isn't about providing those with deviant lifestyles with access to children. Fearing that is just breeder bigotry. Yeah, I know. It's that's why one of your assignments is to get Rick Santorum so I can apologize to him about all the things I thought were absurd about him when he was exactly right the whole time.
Yeah, someone observed that if you were to try to explain the trans movement and every gay movement of the past 15 years to the religious right of the 1980s, even they would be like, well, that maybe seems like a bit far. It can't get that bad. And they were behind. If anything, they were almost behind the curve.
All right. A few on Rumble, then we'll get to Mr. John Doyle over on Rumble. Newbie of Death, if you read this,
you are gay. LMAO.
He always saves that one for Rumble. I think maybe you're not allowed to say that one on YouTube.
Probably.
So thank you for upholding the tradition, Newbie. Appreciate your support for the show. Yakko says, the strait is open. It's closed. It's open. It's closed again. It's very confusing. What isn't confusing is a Navy destroyer shooting at an Iranian cargo ship with its main gun and then seized it. Is that a hypothetical? That didn't happen, did it? We haven't.
No, I only heard of the Indian one. Not. I think he's saying we should.
They were talking about boarding ships and maybe there'll be some escalation. As far as I'm aware, our Navy has not taken shots. But you're right that once that happens, it's not going to be very confusing about who's going to win that conflict, I don't think. Laughing Boy, we got some sea mine clarification.
Oh, good.
Sea mines are anchored to the seafloor with a block that can be repositioned by random tidal rise and flows in the water. Okay, so they could move. That makes sense. I mean, the water's moving, so theoretically the mines could or would move too. They detonate by proximity or contact. They can also just float freely. I'll take your word for it. But why the hell? Why does Iran not know where they are, and why have we recovered or detonated none? As far as I'm aware, they're cardboard.
Yeah.
They're cardboard. All right, thank you guys for supporting the show. Much appreciated.
I'll have to just circle back with you.
We are going to get right into our segment with Mr. John Doyle. So
really smart guy.
Yeah. Appreciated his time. It was nice to meet him. But our guest is John Doyle from the John Doyle Show on Blaze TV. We talk several topics: trusting Trump, 2028 nominees, libertarianism, Black History Month lies, what he calls Girlboss Christianity. Segment's 32 minutes. See you on the other side.
Stand back and stand by.
Doyle rules.
Welcome back. Our guest tonight is John Doyle, host of The John Doyle Show on Blaze TV. John, thank you for making time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
You have many fans in our audience, but you're new to me, so I need to catch up. What is the John Doyle story?
Oh, man, I don't know. We're just trying to be aligned with reality over here. Everybody seems to have gone completely insane in the past couple of years, in particular, I guess, the last 6 months or so. But I don't know. I just started making content online after graduating high school. One thing led to another. Now I'm doing a podcast over with my friends at The Blaze. And so we've just been covering the daily news, cultural happenings, things of that nature.
Throwback to high school. You make me feel ancient, man.
Yeah.
You make me feel like an old man. But I was told by a listener of mine who appreciates you that you are a big plan truster. And
that's right.
I don't think that we're doomers or we're black pillars around here, but as a general Trump appreciator and 3-time Trump voter now, I think this is kind of a low point of both terms of his presidency. Can you sell me some optimism, some hope, or is it even fair to call you a plan truster? You tell me.
No, I'm definitely a plan truster. I could do that. I would have to ask respectfully that you be maybe a bit more particular and maybe what you're disappointed about. I mean, I think there certainly have been some disasters pertaining to things like the Epstein files, pertaining to like the Iran war. I certainly wouldn't try to run defense for those things necessarily, but most of what I see from the kind of not even black pillar or panic-in spheres necessarily is usually just like deliberate, in my opinion, misrepresentations of the administration's progress, usually meant to drive social media engagement, which I think is just typical human nature in terms of how we want to engage with news content. Like it's the famous adage, you never read a headline about a plane landing safely. It's always the plane that crashed. And so I think that it was almost prophetic in some ways when Trump said people would get tired of winning because in 2024, you didn't see this kind of division among Republicans or the online right. I mean, everybody was very unified behind Trump for a time. And then there was some kind of maybe disinfo ops pertaining to different things that he was looking to get involved in. But now I think that Trump has become the president again. And we are seeing, for our lifetimes, I mean, I'm not sure how old you guys are, but certainly in my lifetime, probably the most successful Republican administration. And still people are treating it as though it's a continuation of kind of like Bush era red tie Republican politics, which again, it's not perfect by any means. And we don't make that argument on my program. But I do understand also that morale is an extremely important factor in anything, but especially an uphill political battle. And I just can't see much utility in the kinds of criticism that are largely popular pertaining to the Trump administration, other than something that would just like benefit our enemies and benefit Democrats. Like we have no issue with good faith engagement, but if Trump does something and then 30 seconds later it turns out to be like not that big of a deal, but people are still going to call him like a compromised Israeli pedophile slave, then it's like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do with that? So.
No, I think you hit it exactly. The Iran stuff is hard for me to understand. It's hard for me to find a lot of positivity in. And I think when I look back to my vote, certainly each time, but definitely last time in 2024, if the list of priorities included another regime change war in the Middle East, that was generally not what I was checking the box for.
Sure.
Though, I understand there's a case for optimism, or we have to think a little bit more long term than what we've seen necessarily over the last month. And even what we have seen over the last month isn't total disaster. But I saw that you had posted an episode of your show recently where you were listing the top 5 overlooked wins. So we could talk about whether Iran is going well or not, but I think what you're talking about too is, okay, Iran's important, that matters. Here's a list of things that people aren't even talking that much about that matter quite a lot. What are those things that we should find optimism in?
Basically just things that were increasing the positive vibes of the American experience. And why I think that's important is because ideally we would all agree that for better or worse, the Trump movement, the Trump momentum is more or less like the only shot that we have. I mean, wherever that goes is going to be extremely important for the success of the American right and for conservatives, because obviously the Democrats would like that to go away. Obviously, establishment Republicans would like to assimilate it back into neoconservatism or contain it as they always have. And I think that a lot of people, even in 2016, were viewing the Trump success to be less of a legitimate political success and more of a fluke that was basically to say like F you to Washington, D.C. People were not comfortable with the idea of Trump's political project being something that is like legitimate and something that could be normalized, even the average Trump voter really could only explain it in terms of like FU Washington. They were still very kind of worried or anxious about explaining it as something normal that they believed in or could justify to liberal family members, friends, or what have you. And so why I think a lot of these maybe more overlooked successes, like with crime, for example, cracking down on crime in major cities throughout the country, particularly cities like Memphis, which have gone from places where you couldn't even go out to get a drink at night without having to worry about a gun getting stuck in your face. And now those are places where people can go out and experience, a great American cities. And I think that things like that, or even smaller things like not having to take your shoes off at TSA, those little things that Americans don't appreciate about their experience in their own country do kind of affect how they're experiencing the politics as well. Because, the average citizen who maybe even votes, though most people I don't think do, they're going to think about things like grocery prices, the economy, crime. If they even go to the airport, forget the shoes. If they are seeing a bunch of people in like foreign garments, speaking foreign tongues, those things are really going to affect how Americans view their own government. And it will be as simple to them as simply like red tie or blue tie. And so I do think it's very important to kind of, obviously deliver wins to the base in terms of things that people voted for specifically, and hopefully minimize things that they certainly did not vote for specifically, such as you mentioned, with regime change wars. However, even these like little things, while they seem very intuitive to us, like, yes, of course you would want to attack crime, of course you would want to go after things like that, it is very important to kind of normalize our political project to the whole country, because people prefer stability over instability. They will literally take like a stable regime that is doing managed decline, like you saw under the Obama years or the Brandon years. They would almost prefer that to the sort of like uncertainty of something that presents itself as more volatile or unstable, like the Trump administration, even if it's announcing things that they would agree with more in terms of like what their priorities are in government. And so I do think it's very important that we kind of put out messaging that is reminding people like, hey, we're obviously upset about this or that. We voted for this or that. We're not getting that to the extent that we would like. However, we do have more of a window here. We do have doors opening here for us to continue that and hopefully get everything we want in the future if we can kind of keep it together and govern accordingly. Because I think that what happens is when we sing doom and gloom on the TL, all you're doing is kind of giving people permission to go back to perceiving the Trump administration as something that was always a fluke. It was never serious. It was always just about basically LOL, FU Washington, we're kids on skateboards just being totally unserious. Everything is a meme. And there's certainly some utility to that. That's always fun. We like to dunk on the libtards. However, I do think that ultimately victory should be boring in a certain sense. I think that we do kind of have to focus a lot on the sort of boring victories that are perhaps being overlooked because they're less tantalizing than a regime change war or James Bond villain island, stuff like that.
Well, this is how out of touch I am. I didn't know that you don't have to remove your shoes anymore at TSA. I never fly. So that's actually news to me. I'll look forward to that the next time I fly, which hopefully is never. I'm out here in Montana. I don't want to leave. I don't want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Anyway. Matt, you have some thoughts?
Yeah, but one of the things I like that you did recently was during Black History Month, you did a video a day where you went through a sort of Black history myth and explained why it was either exaggerated or totally false. And I thought it was very useful because, every country to some extent has a founding myth.
Sure.
Thanks to the left, the founding myth in this country is slavery, everything is racism. And you'll even see the left use religious language where, racism is the original sin of America. And the civil rights movement is almost like the, Christian, cleansing of past racism. And the stories, though, they use to promote the civil rights movement, the civil rights narrative, are mostly from activists or are kind of garbled through history like a game of telephone. And I think a lot of the, even 90s racial history, the George Floyd era history, it's going to be written by the same type of people who lied to us about the civil rights history. And I guess to avoid rambling, what are, some of the biggest ones you found that you think people should know about? And I really enjoyed this series.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, dude, literally all of them. I mean, anything from the way slavery was actually practiced to Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, Harriet Tubman, Black participation in success in World War II, inventions that they claim. Dude, literally it's everything. And I don't mean to put that information out there to tell Black Americans that they're not allowed to feel as though they've contributed to American history. But if you want to tell the story of Black accomplishment in America, you're going to have to just basically tell the story of America. And you can certainly find Black representation in great national projects or successful companies. However, the way the story is being told is exactly like you said, that black people actually invented everything, built everything, and then white people just like woke up at, I don't know, 1 p.m. one day and just like got out of bed and stole everything from black people because we're evil. And that's like wrong. And even if the average white American does not feel that same sense of like progressive guilt, this kind of propaganda does really affect their ability to feel comfortable with expressing their instincts politically, I think. And so that's why it's important to kind of just like blow this propaganda out of the water, because it allows the sort of consciousness of the patriot to heal, where they will understand exactly, as any normal person would, what needs to be done about things like crime, about things like wealth redistribution, about things like literally, discriminatory policies and hiring white people. But then there's this little birdie that's reminding them, okay, but don't you kind of like owe them a little bit of a break since you did all of this evil stuff that we just made up 30 years ago? And so insofar as you can like get white people to kind of be like, I knew it. Like, I knew that was fake. Okay, never mind. Like they will know, and maybe even they double down a little bit, feeling like, wait a minute, you were lying to me this whole time. You were emotionally manipulating me, gaslighting me this whole time. Okay, yeah, now I'm never going to listen to you again, which is good because these people lie. And then they'll just like support policies which we literally need to sustain civilization, because that's all these stories are. They are designed not even so much to, increase black self-esteem, which statistically is always consistently higher than white self-esteem anyway, but that might be a byproduct. The real reason is exactly that, is to guilt white people, guilt Americans into accepting their own displacement. And so, people seem to have a real appetite for conspiracy content these days, and that's fine, I guess. But I noticed that the kind of new conspiracy content leads people into a very politically unproductive direction, where we should never do anything because everything is corrupt, and we should just basically wait for everything to collapse, and then we can allow for our niche political ideology to ascend and stand atop the ashes. That's probably not going to happen. But what I do think is good is showing people like, hey, remember that thing you learned every day for your 12 years when you were growing up? Guess what? It's a lie. Here's what actually happened. And that leads people in a much more positive direction, intellectually, patriotically. So yeah, we had a lot of fun with that series, and we'll probably do another one in June for Pride Month, because dude, the gay stuff is believe it or not, kind of crazy.
Your series is what are the truths of Pride Month? That would be a much more concise product to make.
Yes.
I would I'm looking forward to that, because I hadn't read up on it much, but I knew that the Stonewall Inn was a mafia-owned building. I knew they ran an extortion ring from there, and I had sort of heard that the real reason the that was cracked down on had to do with the mafia and not gay people, but I never read more about it. So I'm looking forward to that in particular. But,
there was some stuff for some reason. I guess this gay bar kept getting complaints about the exploitation of children or something, and so eventually the local law enforcement wanted to crack down on that. But of course, that's famously uncharacteristic of that community. So it must be just like homophobic revisionism or something.
That's great.
Where do you think both parties are going in 2028? What's your prediction, or who is your prediction for the nominees of each?
I do think that Gavin Newsom is probably in the best position for 28, because he's more politically talented, I think, than a lot of what the party has to offer. Right now, the sort of MO for that party is to try to present itself in a less woke way, even if in terms of government, they're still like, look at Virginia, for example. I mean, that was like kind of what they tried there, where they ran as though they were just like moderate Bill Clinton style Democrats. And then the second they took power, they immediately like maneuvered so that Republicans could never control the state again. So they're not learning their lesson in the sense that they're actually going to put all of their insane policies back into the box. They're simply just going to lie better. And so Gavin Newsom can do that. He can get up there and do the podcast circuit and talk about how Americans just need to come together or whatever. That's what you have to do. That's what we always had to do in the last like 25 years, because that's language of defeat. Like when you are getting the crap beaten out of you, that is when you say, hey man, can't we just like talk this out and come together? When you're in the position of power, you never use that language. And so right now they understand that they're kind of on the back foot. They've got a lot of internal problems. And so I think that there's kind of a simultaneous effort to, one, present themselves as more moderate perhaps on the national stage, but two, also increase a lot of the divisions among the right, which I think is why you're seeing all of these, social media ops about MAGA being dead, all of these lies about Trump. The criticism is not good faith in nature. They are not allowing for that kind of information to be so proliferated, because they actually want a more right-wing, more effective Trump government. Like they are trying to just pull the rug out from under the entire thing, which is very frustrating to communicate to voters who do feel, rightfully so perhaps, that their expectations aren't being met. Like you're trying to convince them, yes, you do actually have to hold on a little bit longer. And they're like, I've been holding on for literally my whole life. And it's like, I know it's very tough to get people to understand that perhaps a little bit more patience and good faith criticism is needed here when, they sort of sense the imminent Democrat counterattack. So I think that's what's going on the left. On the right, again, we are in a period of great division right now. The Charlie Kirk assassination was perhaps the catalyst to it reaching its current peak. I would hope that Vance is the guy, not even because I'm like the biggest JD Vance fan in the world, but I just don't know who else it would be. I mean, I don't really like Marco Rubio for that job. I just don't see who else it could be. I think that Vance actually does really get it on the issues. Every time I've seen him answer a question, I think that he pretty much perfectly articulates himself. And two, I think that he presents that kind of normalcy to a Trump administration that is ultimately needed. I mean, I was never the guy to say that, Trump was always just supposed to be that middle finger. I always thought that he had like serious ideas for how the country ought to look. But I also recognize that just by nature, he's very brash. He speaks his mind. And sometimes Americans do want a little bit more sophistication to how their politics are presenting themselves. And, I know people who are like white collar professionals who would tell me in 2024, like, yeah, I'm voting for Trump, but I don't like Trump. I like JD Vance, though. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of insane because on paper, JD Vance is much further right than Donald Trump, indisputably. But because he can present himself with Ivy League credentials, with a bit more polish, people are more comfortable with that than Trump, who they always say is just a 90s Democrat. But because he gets in there and he's much more, he's gesticulating and he's, dropping expletives, like that doesn't quell some of the anxieties of perhaps the professional class in America. So I think that is maybe where I would put my chip down, is a Newsom versus Vance kind of situation.
I think those will be some high-level debates if it goes that way. They're probably both favored to get the nominations in their parties, but we've had years of Trump debates, and don't get me wrong, they're entertaining. I've loved watching them. But to your point, Gavin Newsom, I think, has a talent for this. He's wrong about virtually everything, but he can sell it in a convincing way. And JD Vance, I think, is excellent in presentation as well. So those two on the debate stage is going to be something to watch, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, even the Tim Walz debate, I thought, was very well structured between, how they both presented themselves. I mean, obviously, JD Vance came out on top as he's not friends with school shooters, but I did enjoy the dialogue. I don't know. It was a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
Well, I also saw that you'd posted about being an ex-libertarian.
Me too.
And I don't know if I embrace that title. My thing with libertarianism, I think, as a view of philosophy of government, it is sensible. My problem with libertarianism is there's a lot of moral relativism in it. Mm-hmm. And my dispute with a lot in the libertarian community is, no, there is an objective right and wrong. We should seek to behave that way, and we should encourage good behavior, discourage bad behavior. That doesn't mean that the government has to be involved in every little thing and micromanage. Mm-hmm. But I am not going to act like, let's put it this way, simply leaving people alone is not a sufficient moral framework. There's more to a life well lived and a life poorly lived than just leaving people alone. But what is your basis for saying that you're a former libertarian or you don't identify as one? What's your problem with libertarianism?
I just realized that it's, I don't know, I saw a meme that was, which is unfortunate, if the ideology is so fragile that, I mean, maybe this was not the most sophisticated intellectual exercise on my behalf, but if the meme was, or the belief was so fragile that it could be destroyed by a meme, then maybe that does speak to, I don't know, its efficacy going against the global left. But essentially the meme was of like a Pepe the Frog in a MAGA hat, and he was about to be executed by an NPC. And the NPC said, "Any last words?" And Pepe the Frog said, "My principles." And then he got killed. And I was like, dude, that's like literally it. Because, these people are a very deferential people, because to be a libertarian, you almost have to have a naturally conflict averse temperament, which I understand is going to sound crazy since these are the guys who love to say, "Don't tread on me or I'm going to get you." Okay, dude, very cool. But ultimately, like what they believe about the world is that no one should fill that power vacuum. That power vacuum should be minimized. It should be left on the table. And that is simply incompatible with how politics works. And so when you have a libertarian party or libertarian representation in the Republican Party, what you tend to see is not actually those people having what it takes to move the ball down the field and even complete what they state are their objectives. They tend to just like get in the way of the right actually doing anything and say, no, we can't do that because what if it's done to us? It's being done to us anyway. And it's like,
there was a Stone Toss comic, kind of similar to what you were talking about, where a guy is about to be executed, and he's like saying to his friend who's also about to get shot, he's like, "Well, listen, if we use power against the left, they'll just use it when they get in charge." And, well, they already have been. So
I'm very sympathetic with that guy. He He seems sensible, actually.
Yeah. So that was more or less it. And, I think that all of us would probably agree that in an ideal society, and I also too don't appreciate the kind of intellectual bastardization of America's like political history, where, the libertarians will tell you about how libertarian in attitude the founding fathers were. They will not tell you that literally all of our founding political texts, like I'm talking about political texts prior to the Declaration of Independence, where all of our founding fathers or proto-founding fathers, so to speak, articulating in explicit detail how America was to be regarded as an explicitly Christian project, how we were to keep God's laws, and if not, we would be cursed worse than anybody in the Old Testament, how, libertarian government, quote unquote, can only exist if one perfects the art of self-improvement, of virtue. Benjamin Franklin famously wrote extensively about this. And absent all of that, none of what they're talking about in terms of a political framework could ever function. It would be ridiculous to suggest otherwise. And so how popular libertarianism is understood, because this isn't all libertarians, but how it's understood popularly is to say that basically everybody should, what's the line? Defend their marijuana plants with their gay husband and, have an AR-15. And it's like, okay, this is not conducive to not only stopping the left, which is going to kill you anyway, but even if that could actualize, that's not itself a society I'd like to live in the first place, with a bunch of like gay couples growing pot. And it's like, this is not exactly what I had in mind. Not exactly my favorite Norman Rockwell painting.
Well, speaking of libertarian degeneracy, I was also told that you have strong gambling opinions. Is that correct?
I don't know if I'd say strong. Okay. I don't know. I've always enjoyed gambling.
Okay.
Not in the sense of like losing or gaining money. I like those kinds of games. I've always thought that it's a lot of fun to play cards with your friends. I've always liked kind of the showmanship of the casino. In America, in a lot of places, you can't find good showmanship anymore. You just see like a bunch of, diversity, just like crap. And obviously Vegas is not exactly the cleanest place in the world, but they don't tolerate crap the same way a lot of other places in America do. If you go into Vegas and you start something, you're going to be dragged out of there and they're going to like open the door with your head, like, Goodfellas or Casino style or something. So I do kind of like that. And it is a little dirty. It is a little degenerate, but it's also, it is a part of kind of American culture. And so I've only myself been to Vegas maybe once or twice. I've only maybe made a handful of bets ever in my life. But so I don't know if I would have a strong opinion on gambling, but
okay. No, it's sports betting for me. Not that I'm an addict or something, but I enjoy a little dabble, and
right.
I thought maybe you'd talk me out of my degenerate ways in that regard. But we'll
no. I actually think it's good. I think that a man should have like a control of a vice. I think that what tends to happen is when you try to completely deny yourself all indulgence and everything that's maybe undesirable, it tends to kind of be unsustainable and you can develop like a binge mechanism or whatever. I think that you should have one vice that you can hold in your hand and control it, whether that's cigarette smoking, whiskey, a little bit of sports gambling here or there. I've just noticed in my own life and with guys I know who kind of allow themselves, to trust, I can do this, it's not going to be a problem, whatever. Those guys tend to be much more stable and frankly, better at practicing consistent virtue than guys who are trying to do total self-denial and then they can never really get it, under control.
I've talked myself into believing it's this sophisticated intellectual exercise because with sports betting, there's all these analytics and trends. And so that's how I justify it in my own mind. I'm being a very smart mathematical person when I do this, although I don't know what my returns lifetime are. They're not that great. So.
Our president said that intelligence is the ability to predict the future. And what is gambling if not that?
Yeah, exactly. Matt, you have any other thoughts?
I'm going to use that philosophy to justify more gambling. I like it.
Okay. Well, I also saw you posting recently about what you called Girlboss Christianity.
Oh,
and I don't know what Girlboss Christianity is, so I invite your explanation.
Yeah, it's just like, frankly, it's popular Christianity. I've become very, 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 very. I've never had like a legitimate struggle with faith. I've never doubted that. Recently, I've been having a lot of problems with sort of, and I guess this is intuitive, if you have any knowledge of what Christianity teaches, that most people are not going to be saved because it just, they do not have the impulse to kind of like seek God, and we can pray that they will. But even in Christian churches where, I don't know, it can be in a mega church, it can be in like a very liberal Catholic church, you just see this everywhere where you have this kind of like girl boss Christianity, I call it, where the message is not about subservience to God. It's not about how we should be in awe at creation and existence and life. It's basically just like an ultimate kind of self-help. Like you listen to the most popular Christian podcasts, which are overwhelmingly like either their audiences are populated by women or frankly very effeminate men. And the message is basically, hey, you are good. God has a plan for you. You know those girls who made you feel bad because you're not very pretty? Well, God loves you. You know those guys that made you feel bad because you're kind of gay? Well, God loves you. And it's like, that's true. Like God did make you and God does love you. But I worry that when people are experiencing that message, it's not inspiring them to take faith more seriously. Rather, they are using that faith to basically fill their own appetite for self-help. And they just view it to be the ultimate form. So it's like, hey, dude, why are you reading that secular self-help book? Don't you know that this one's true because God said so? It's like you're viewing Jesus not so much as God in the part of your brain and the part of your heart that is seeking a divine authority. You're viewing him as your big brother. And it's like, hey, you better be nice to me or my big brother's going to come here and he's going to kick your ass. It's like, there is a justice, obviously. We will all be judged, obviously, but I'm very worried about how people are receiving the sentiment. And frankly, and again, you know, I don't mean to cast stones. I don't mean to dissuade people from doing what perhaps they believe to be the right thing, but I'm very worried about that being the only distillation of Christian teaching, and how, you know, you can certainly speak about that occasionally because it's true and it's good that people are reminded that God does love them. But if that is all you are talking about, people, I think, are going to experience that and be attracted to that less because of an authentic engagement with the Christian faith and more because they just want self-help. They want to be told that they're still the main character. And hey, you're going through a hard time. Guess what? God's going to help you. God loves you. Say these words, then God will give you what you want. And it's just, it worries me a lot that, and you can't tell people that. People get very upset because they assume that what you're saying is that you don't want more people hearing about the name of Jesus Christ. You don't want people hearing about Christianity, but that is not the case. But I just think it's human nature being flawed. Anything that's popular at scale is going to assimilate into the fallen nature of mankind, even, you know, certain interpretations of Christianity. And so it's been very, I wouldn't say disheartening, sobering in some sense to kind of see that play out in a lot of modern Christian discourse. And I think back to actually, believe this is going to sound stupid, but I think back to the third Indiana Jones movie when, you know, the actual Holy Grail was this very meek, old, you know, chalice rather than something that was very sort of gaudy and gold and beautiful. And I think of that in terms of Christianity in some sense, where the way that it is understood properly is never going to achieve that kind of mass popularity, just because it is so in contrast to our nature as people to be fallen and to want to turn against God or use God to forward our own interests. And that's idolatry, you know, understanding is something as ultimate other than worshiping God. And you can even make God subject to your will and treat him as a kind of passenger and say, okay, you're my ticket to the good life. All I have to do is go to church and say, I believe in you. And then you're going to give me what I want. And I just see that so often online. And I try not to throw my hat in that ring because I am by no means a saint, and so I don't know that it's my place to speak about that. However, I also know that insofar as God has given me a voice, I should probably speak about that. But I'm sorry for rambling. How that pertains specifically to the Girlboss Christianity is a lot of this stuff, you know, with targeting women, with that messaging is basically saying like, hey, you are so valid. You need to find a man who is patient with you, which means letting you do whatever you want all the time, basically, because, you know, you never hear them talk about like the proper role of like a wife in a Christian marriage. You know, they always ignore verses about how women should not have authority over men, how women should be silent in church. You know, they will conform that to the world by saying, well, obviously that was a different time. Now we know better. And it's like, sorry, isn't the word of God supposed to transcend like time? Isn't that kind of the whole point? So they are very much focused on teaching women that basically, insofar as they have sinned, which usually means they have a past, that is okay and God loves them. And you need to find a man who accepts you for every bad decision you've ever made, because if he doesn't do that, he's not godly and he must be doubting, you know, the power of forgiveness or something. And so that's, of course, a very appealing message to women because they obviously want to have their cake and eat it too, as does anybody. And so they'll go through life and they'll perhaps get involved into some pretty immodest behavior. And then they go and they marry some Christian guy who, you know, really believes that she can be virginized or she's an angel because now she's converted to Christianity. And it's like, look, dude, I hope that marriage works out. I really do. But You can't scold young men for wanting a wife who has perhaps made better behavior. And when I talk to these kinds of Christian women, you say that to them, they melt down. I got kicked off a podcast one time. This woman wanted to talk to me because she thought that, I was all on board with Catholicism and this kind of stuff, and I am. But then we got into her talking about how the problem with marriage is that men are immature. I have all of these friends and they're all so great and none of them can find a guy who wants to marry them. And I'm like, oh, that's so sad. Well, how are they in college? Like what? No, they're they're in their 30s now. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, real.
And I'm like, so is this going to be a white wedding and so eventually she literally I don't want to talk to you anymore because I was refusing to endorse the position that these guys that listen to me should just go and marry some, quote unquote reformed girl just because now she takes her faith more seriously, which again, that is not to doubt the power of salvation or grace or anything. And it's not to say that people can't change. It is to say, I find it very convenient that messaging would be targeted towards women after the fact. And so that's Girlboss Christianity. It's basically viewing Christianity as the ultimate tool to govern male behavior rather than something that is divine and that has authority over all of us. It's basically saying, you disagree with me? You think that I shouldn't have had a phase? You think that you shouldn't listen to me? Well, guess what? The way that I understand this book, which is the rules we all have to follow, says it does. And guys, frankly, nowadays are just too pusillanimous to resist their wives, dude. They're like totally just
I don't even know what that word means. Never heard it before.
That's
wow.
That's where the P word comes from.
Yep.
Pusillanimous.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's our guest, John Doyle. You can find the John Doyle Show on Blaze TV. Great vocabulary lessons over there, I'm told. Linked in the description for you. John, is there anything else you'd like to promote?
No, aside from my 10-minute incel raging about the state of the modern woman, I had a lot of fun. Thank you for having me. And yeah, please come watch the John Doyle Show. It's a very reality-aligned program.
Thank you for your time.
Stand back and stand by.
Welcome back. Hey, the reviews are in.
Doyle rules. Doyle rules.
Everyone loves John. Appreciate his time. Find John Doyle's links in the description. These kids in their Zoomer hair, man. I never feel so old as when I am directly juxtaposed with Zoomer hair. That's how I know I'm inching toward the grave. I don't know. Can't compete. Try to remember the day. Anyway. Any thoughts on John Doyle before I get into this somewhat breaking news back in the Strait?
No, it's a really good interview. He's a very solid guest. We've been going off of a lot of listener suggestions, and they've been doing a very good job. So.
Yeah, and this one was, as well as I mentioned during the segment, on the MC Club Discord server, one of the spots I have is, hey, you want to see people on the show? Drop them here, and I'll check them out. And when we started the server back in January, that was one of the first requests, was Mr. John Doyle. So glad to have him. Thank you, Matt, for arranging. And appreciate audience guest suggestions always. We'll try to track them down where there's interest. But I mentioned there's somewhat breaking news. Now, we had that super chat about the Navy taking out a ship or firing, and I was unclear. Was this hypothetical or is this for real? Well, thanks to listener Daniel Kunkel, who sent me an email. I think maybe there were some chats to this effect too, so thanks everybody for making us aware. I apologize for not seeing this, but apparently this happened closely before live tonight. So it's within the last few hours. But according to reports, not just reports, U.S. Central Command, so the military itself, I'll just read from the report here so I don't mischaracterize it. U.S. forces operating in the Arabian Sea enforced naval blockade measures against an Iranian-flagged cargo vessel attempting to sail toward an Iranian port April 19th. Now, Iranian-flagged means from Iran? Like this is an Iranian ship? Is that what that's saying? I believe. Although the headline here, U.S. forces disable
or did
vessel.
Iran flag them as a...
I'm unclear if the ship itself is Iranian or if it's from somewhere else, but it was attempting to go to an Iranian port, and it got the warning from the Navy. Apparently, didn't comply. They fired several rounds from a naval destroyer to disable the engine room on this ship, and then Marines from the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit actually boarded this vessel, which now remains in U.S. custody. There is some video here. I'll play this. I assume we're going to watch firing on the ship or something.
Vacate your engine room. Vacate your engine room. We're prepared to subject you to disabling fire.
So they warned him a bunch. It's a ship with a bunch of cargo. And then they took him out, or just disabled it. I don't think anybody died, actually, if I'm understanding this report. But the ship was disabled and taken by the U.S. Navy. And Marines.
It's insane we have the technology to just do stuff like this.
Yeah. That's the start of the video. So that's all the video that we have. But yeah, it looks like this is the first, as far as I understand, it's the first time we've actually taken shots as a part of this blockade. Something like 2 dozen ships had been warned, hey, there's a blockade going on, and they did not attempt to challenge. Looks like this ship attempted to challenge and found out the hard way. Yeah. So that's what's going on in the Strait. We'll see if that complicates matters for negotiation in Pakistan tomorrow. Again, I'm unclear where this vessel is from. Is it Iranian? Is it? Well, maybe we'll get some more information on that. Okay. You ready for some hoax hate, or you have any other thoughts on this?
Oh, I'm very ready for hoax hate.
Okay, well, let's get into it.
And now, the nobody saw it happen, but it's totally a product of Trump's America hoax hate crime of the week.
Ah, shit, it's backwards. You think they'll notice?
This one's Canadian, actually. I didn't see a lot of American hoax hate this week, so I had to borrow from up north. But in Toronto, police say their hate crime unit is investigating an incident on a transit bus where a man was caught on video verbally accosting and kicking at a Muslim woman. Unclear if his foot made contact or if he merely attempted a kick. But the National Council of Canadian Muslims posted the video on Wednesday. Not clear when the incident occurred.
You're such a...
Whoops, wrong one. Let's try... Where is it? Which one is
Call
it?
of Duty.
Nope. Let's try the... This is the one. There we go.
Turn around, come on. What the f*** you look behind me?
What the f*** Hey! You don't get to hit girls just because you're a Muslim. You go to hell. You need
It's just like America.
Like you can't respect people, you sit quietly.
Just a bunch of Canadians on a bus, that's all.
Off the bus.
Yeah, so this I'm supposed to believe right here. This is not a bus from Mogadishu. This is a bus full of Islamophobic Canadians.
We've really been overrun. Like, even in America, where I live, it's not like on paper, according to the census, it's not that diverse. It's not that diverse of an area, but in practice, it totally is. So I don't know what's going on with the numbers, but every single time I go out, I see at least one Muslim now. Like, clearly identifiable. And even 5 years ago, I could go years without seeing one. And I don't know what happened.
There is a mosque in town here, although for some reason the Muslims in town here, they shop at Walmart at like 3 in the morning. I don't know. It must be all the Islamophobia. They don't want to risk it.
Maybe in their defense, they're actually working and they have to go out those hours because I don't know. If you'll go out if you go to the mall in the middle of the day, it's packed with these people and it's what the hell are we doing?
Well, they need to learn from Minnesota how to conduct themselves because all the Minnesotan Muslims have successful businesses like the Leering Center, and they're out in the middle of the Mall of America in the middle of the day, you know?
Yeah,
so maybe one day they'll learn here in Bozeman.
Go ahead.
Well, in this particular case, I'm not just saying demographically this looks much more Muslim than the story suggests. Although
horrible.
I'm pretty confident that this is not an anti-Islam population that's on this bus. But even just taken as presented, there's not. You listen to the video clip, and I noticed the video is clipped at about 30 seconds. We can't see what led up to it. or what happened after. But there's even the commentary we can hear. There's not anything explicitly anti-Muslim in it. The guy says something about terror, but it sounds like he barely speaks English, or English is not his first language. He does say something terror. So just the word terror, I guess, is anti-Islamic. But yeah, we're supposed to believe that this is yet another episode of Canadian hate striking again.
You can fuck off. We have Indians doing counter jihad. It's that diverse.
Yeah. If it is anti-Islamic, it probably is of the Hindu variety or something like that.
I saw some video on X. It was some Indian guy who I don't think lived in India, like an Indian from a European who was living in a European country, went to Canada for a vacation and was complaining about how there was too many Indians. So it's that level of cultural enrichment.
No suspect information released by police. So we have no idea who did that. We don't know when it happened. We don't know who this guy is, but we know it was anti-Islamic in nature. I'm checking my phone because I got a text from Tim.
Yes, he said that he believed the framing of Iranian flagged meant that it had an Iranian flag on it.
Okay,
meaning,
some news is describing it as an Iranian cargo ship. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah,
I think in this context, yeah, right.
I thought they meant like flagged as potentially a separate country doing business with them or whatever.
Right.
But
when we think of the word flagged, you think like described as or designated as. You don't think the literal, it has an Iranian flag on it, which is what that means. Yeah. Anyway, unless it was some kind of hoax, like some kind of false flag. They put a false Iranian flag on it. That's what it appears to be. And so now we got some things to talk about tomorrow. JD and company in Pakistan.
And even if we were to say this is a legit hate crime, it is a fair argument against immigration to say that we don't want to import ethnic feuds from other countries.
Yeah.
It's a totally fair thing. Like, remember when Omar Fatah, the Somalian guy, was running for mayor of Minneapolis, and he only lost because there was a tribal feud within the Somalian community, and half of them wouldn't turn out to vote for him. So even within ethnicities, there's problems.
Yeah. We'll see if they catch this guy up north.
Sure.
Now, this one is not a hoax, but as I was reading through some hate-related stories this week, I thought this to be interesting. Now, I agree that there is some disrespectful behavior. Even criminal, I suppose, is not too far of a stretch. But the nature of the origin of the conflict, I have some questions about how this one developed. Maybe I'm missing something, though. It's a brief report. In Hyde Park, New York, this is between New York City and Albany, or Albany. Is that how you say it? I don't know. I'm not a New Yorker. You tell me. Is that how I say it? Albany?
I say Albany.
Albany.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you are correct. Some say Albany.
Okay.
Potato.
A jury has now convicted a man of stalking and harassing a church leader. 32-year-old Jacob Bender is now a felon. It sounds like the felony, though, technically the felony is for defying a court order in the form of a restraining order. He's guilty of felony criminal contempt for that. As far as what he did to this church, it's a misdemeanor. It is fourth-degree stalking as a hate crime. But what are we talking about here? Back in November 10th and 13th, to be specific, Bender emailed church rector, so that's the leader of the church, pastor, or whatever the term would be, Meredith Sanderson. This is at St. James Episcopal Church with the subject line, repent. And that is because this particular church is apparently a rainbow LMNOP church.
I am a gay homosexual.
So this guy's grandparents, I guess, are congregants at the church. He doesn't like the way the church conducts itself. I'm guessing he probably has good theological reasons for that. It's not an endorsement of his conduct. I understand what he's probably seen. Anyway, so he emails her and tells her to repent. And just that, as described in this story, emails this woman who leads this church, subject line, repent, that caused her to reasonably fear harm for her physical health, safety, or property. She got a restraining order. But he emailed her again in December, and he said that she has no authority to preach the gospel.
True.
And he said she and the church attendees will burn in hell. And
probably. Go on.
Well,
I'm kidding.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Here's where the legal problem, this is where it does, I think, become a legal problem, or this is the worst of the behavior. He reportedly went to her residence on December 11th, despite that restraining order. That's where the felony conviction comes in.
Yeah, it's not a great judgment.
However, the way it was reported here in the story, he violated the protection order by walking by. It's even, there's like a typo here, by walking by to her residence. It makes it sound like he was on a walk and he was in the general
the
vicinity.
Door and kept going. Yeah.
And I know that restraining orders often say like you can't be within X distance of this person. I don't know what the terms of this restraining order are. I get violating a restraining order is perfectly plausible grounds for a criminal violation. I'm not saying that's unreasonable. Based on the description in this story, though, I have to wonder, like, if you go to a judge and just say, I want a restraining order for whatever reason, are they just automatically granted to you? Because you're allowed to block the email, you know, like people send me critical emails all the time. Some of them might say repent. I don't know. They probably do. Can I get a restraining order for that?
And like, how does it work? Like, if you got a restraining order against me and it's like, I can't be within 50 feet of you. If you see me in public and start walking towards me, like, do I legally have to start taking steps back? Or how does that?
I mean, incidentally, I'm sure you probably wouldn't be in trouble. Now, this has the complicating factor of the home. Okay. Yeah. Maybe he did go there to harass her at her home, which is a legal problem. However, if that happened, I imagine the news coverage would describe that.
Yeah, or
to say he violated it by walking by. And even the original emails, you might say you disagree with them. You might say they're distasteful. He did not say, I'm going to burn your church, or I'm going to burn your church congregation. He is saying your teachings are contrary to the gospel. You are a fraud in your presentation of the gospel. For that, you will burn in hell implicitly according to God's justice. But I don't, is saying someone's going to burn in hell, is that he wasn't charged for the threat here, I'll be precise. But is that a threat sufficient to give a restraining order?
And it's not a threat because you're not saying you're the one who's going to do it. You're making a prediction about God's judgment. Yeah. So I just found this to be a bizarre case, and I'd like some more information on and to be a felon for sending emails that say you're going to burn in hell and for walking by, which is what it says in this story. I definitely have some questions about this case, but I want to know what everyone looks like.
I need to see the church. I didn't look it up.
Yeah. Because you can, we're taught as a kid, never judge a book by its cover. But I've found you can about 98% of the time. Like, it's very rarely wrong. You never see, like, a pink-haired, lesbian-looking person who's like, yeah, I love Trump, I vote Republican, love Jesus. It's like, there are certain people that present the way, I don't know, they believe, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if I can learn more about this story. Now, this also is not a hoax, but it is hate language related, and it's hilarious. Did you see what happened to Ben Stiller over the weekend?
I just loved how, because I can't remember what he was tweeting out letter by letter, but like each tweet gets like 10 likes, and then the letter N got like 10,000.
I don't have that, but you're right.
You know what's coming next.
Right. So, what Ben Stiller did was he accidentally started, I call them N trains. More people call them N towers.
Yeah.
N train, maybe I should not use that language because it might imply something else. Anyway, there is an actual N train in New York, though. Did you know that?
No. I know they run the I train.
Yeah, there's an N train.
And then there's also a G train. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
But, okay, so it's an N tower. And what happens when there's an N tower, for people who don't know, you'll see it in tweets, you'll see it in chats. Someone starts with that big, bold capital N, and then another person replies I, and then soon enough, it's GGER, and they all cascade down, and there's no stopping it. Well, Ben Stiller just tweeted that N. It was just out there, and there is a context I'll explain in a moment. But not only did the IGGER follow, but it was completed with another slur, the funniest word or word combination that exists, the full NF. It actually
from Derek Comedy.
Yeah, the full NF. The sequence was complete. And so why did Ben Stiller do this? Well, Ben Stiller, I guess, is a big fan of the New York Knicks, the basketball team, and they had won their playoff game against the Atlanta Hawks over the weekend. So Stiller was tweeting KNICKS Knicks. And a top tweet in the Grok summary of the story says, I forgot to grab that one, dang it. But there's a tweet out there with 59,000 likes. Or maybe it is in here. No, I don't have it. 59,000 likes for saying this is why this website sucks.
No, that's why it's awesome.
This is why X is better than it ever has been. Celebrities accidentally creating N towers and nobody getting banned, nobody getting in trouble. And that's the thing about people say, "Oh, it's so juvenile, it's so stupid, it's such a such a dumb slur." Okay. The fact that the word has so much power is what makes it funny. But the thing that is clever about the N tower, and maybe it is played out at this point in time, it's not like this is the first. There have been many N towers before this one. But it's a clever way to say the unsayable thing and make the censorship of it very difficult or impossible. Because what are you going to do? Are you going to ban the guy who posted the I or the G?
Right.
Or the R?
Yeah, they didn't know what was coming next.
Yeah, well, and then it's like, are they bannable only upon the completion by somebody else?
And then what if someone writes like the next four letters are like, rock or rule? Then it's like it's a good thing.
Yeah. NFs are cool.
Love them.
Yay, NFs, right? Yeah, that's why the N tower is funny and clever. It's not just the words, even though the combination of the slurs is funny. It's the clever presentation that gets around the censorship. And what I love it's another demonstration of there are always ways around censorship. So in addition to censorship's moral wrong, as a practical matter, it's not useful because what do? You substitute different words. You do N trains, N towers. There are always ways around it. So censorship loses again. And Ben Stiller, he deleted, I think he deleted all the tweets, or at least just the N.
I think it was all, but
maybe it
would have been
kicks.
funnier if it was just the N.
Yeah, just kicks. He loves the kicks now. There is no N. Anyway, okay. Man. And an odd, there he is at the game. There he is thinking about how he's going to tweet an N in a moment, or maybe he already did. In an odd update to something of the update is hate related. The story originally was not, but again, a thing I have questions about. So recall a few weeks ago, I think that we talked about this on Wednesday, Matt. I don't know if you and I talked about it yet, but
I've seen the story. Yeah.
Okay. So there's this quadruple amputee who somehow murdered his friend by gunshot to the head in his car and then tried to get his other friends to help him bury the body. They were in the back seat. Since he's not very good with a shovel. His name is Dayton Weber, and he probably is better with a shovel than I'm giving him credit for, because as you can see, he can't. Not only is there video of him shooting a gun successfully, he shot his friend in the head, and he's also a professional cornhole player. So despite having lost all of his, or his arms from the elbow down and his legs from the knee down as a kid because of a freak bacterial infection, he is actually a very capable person, and he is now charged with murder in Maryland for killing his friend at sometime in mid to late March. Now, the update that is bizarre is that for some reason, this guy, Dayton Weber, the quadruple amputee, appears to have some sort of scar that or carving that many hoax hate victims claim to have. Sometimes they even carve it into themselves for victimhood purposes. But yes, that is a swastika scar.
But I think that's the Hindu one that's backwards, right?
It is backward.
Yeah, I know my swastika stars.
Right. So how did we come to discover this? TMZ has a cache of footage of Dayton Weber, video and images, and they discovered this swastika scar that's on his belly. Now, the image metadata says the image is from March 16th, 2026. So this is just a few days before the killing. This, according to TMZ. There's also this terrifying image of Weber wearing a clown mask, handling what looks like a Glock. Maybe this is the last thing his friend saw.
Oh, man, what a way to go out.
That's the guy he murdered, by the way.
It's a Uno reversal right there.
Bradrick Wells, yeah. But I actually shouldn't do the Mary Moriarty and say murder. He's been charged with murder. He is accused, to be technical, but his defense attorney, Dayton Weber's defense attorney, says it was a self-defense situation, and that's how they intend to operate in court. The lawyer said he, Dayton Weber, the quadruple amputee, had to kill or be killed. That's what this case is. This has always been a self-defense case. He is not guilty of the first-degree murder charge in Maryland. No additional information that I've seen as to why exactly this guy has a backward swastika carved into his stomach. They said it was right around the same time as the shooting. I don't know. Maybe he's known he's going to prison and he needs protection in prison. So it's Nazis. It is. He has to join them to make sure that he doesn't be He's very victimizable in prison. He's just trying to make sure. I don't even. If you look at this photo, it's very
poorly done.
Well, I want to get just. Can I zoom in on just this photo? Sorry for zooming in on this gut, but my question is, what is going on? Maybe it's just. Oh, you know what it is? I thought there was like more scarring up here on the front. It's just the TMZ watermark was making it look. And maybe there is some stretch marks. I thought there was something else up here in the belly button. Range, but no, it looks like just the backward swastika. All right. Anyway,
someone in the chat said he was unarmed.
Of course, yeah. There were a lot of good ones. Yeah. It was there shouldn't be jokes about murder cases, but how could you not in this particular one?
Did he not kind of implode the self-defense argument though with the trying to hide the body or bury the body?
Yeah, that's so the claim that he wanted to hide the body is the testimony of the friends who called police after the murder. He didn't, as far as I understand, he just dumped the body out of the car, like on a sidewalk somewhere. So whatever he did, I don't know that he actually tried to bury it, but to your point, did he call police or try to render aid to this person? No.
Right.
He moved the body around. He did not leave the body where the killing took place. So I imagine you're right, that is going to be a complicating factor for his defense. But okay, any other thoughts on the quadruple amputee backward swastika carving guy?
I just feel like if that guy shot me and I lived, it's a story I could never tell anyone. Like, you know who got me? The guy with no arms. Or no
we're not
hands.
friends
He's
anymore.
We had a
good run.
It's too lame of a way to get shot.
Yeah. All right. Let's get back into Super Chat. We'll call it a night. Over on Rumble, just got to say, you could have easily told Knuckle Hunky Buck to F off for derailing your show, and instead you gave him grace and redemption. You are a better Knigga than most, Matt. May God bless. This from Swords of Hatred. Well, thank you very much.
We love you. You're very special.
And I was glad to get, Matt, I don't know if you caught the end of the show, because...
I saw. He had a funny nickname for me, but I forgot it.
Lieutenant Palumbo.
Oh, Columbo from the show Palumbo. It was funny because when he made that reference, I'm like, "There's no way Matt's gonna get this reference."
No,
but
I played along like I did, and I just thought it was funny because it's cool to give you. After you called him Huckleberry, it was funny that he had a nickname for you.
Well, someone pointed out in the chat that I had accidentally quoted Columbo at one point, which I said like, what was it? I said like just one more thing, which is a Columbo line. I didn't even realize early in the episode I said that in response to something, so it was a funny coincidence. But no, I'm glad he's doing better.
It was good to give him a little bit of closure on what happened, and I'm glad to see things are improving. Though of course, he's got his own obstacles to deal with, and thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. To me, it's just a conversation. I'll take the compliments, but as far as difficulty for me, it's not at all difficult. Especially something where I'm just letting the guy talk, I just fire it up and let him go. And I know it's difficult for Huckleberry, for Hunky Buck. It's very personal, obviously. It's embarrassing. It's just not an easy thing to do. He didn't have to do that, and I appreciate that he did, just to provide a little bit of closure to that event or chapter in the stream. It's not an easy thing for him to do. And so I appreciate that he did that. And may God bless him. And thank you, Swords of Hatred, for your kind words and your support for the show. Let's see. Where did I leave off on YouTube? Right. VV, we talked about maybe Robert coming on. Oh, and then Esoterica Unbound was, yeah, of course. It's not about access to children, right? Let's see. Injured Guardian, millstones for the 2 PDF files, Matthew 18:6, etc. I've not read Matthew's Gospel in the Bible study yet. I kind of want to for the ridiculous reason that I want to know.
It's my favorite one.
It's
the first one I ever read.
My name is Matthew. Shouldn't I have read Matthew's Gospel? So maybe we'll get into that in the Bible study in one of our next seasons or iterations of it. Okay, so here's an interesting thing, and you're talking about the 2 dads, I assume, right? But he's calling them PDF files. Is what is going on there the same thing as PDF-philia? Or is it different?
Well, no, they would have to act on, an impulse for that to be the case.
To your point, though, you did say earlier, it's always boys. And it is.
Oh, yes. I mean, I'm saying, I think it happens. It must happen statistically at a higher rate, but, I can't base it off just that one video, but it is, extremely creepy and, sort of quasi-fit posting in response to it.
These guys have the twin son and daughter also. I wonder what the circumstances of that are, because in their case, it wouldn't be fair to say that they did only boys. They didn't. They do have this girl.
I guess then is the exception. Yeah, you're right. I wasn't taking that into account, but
well, I'm trying to flesh it because I don't think it's I don't think it is at all unreasonable to think that this treatment of children that we're talking about in this context of renting a womb and shoving the baby into this lifestyle because that's what suits you, that has a connection to PDF files as described here. I don't even know where I'm going with this. It's like, in their case, it's not strictly accurate, but isn't there kind of a connection? I guess.
Yeah, I would say listen, I would say I don't think most are, but I think it happens at a higher rate. I think it is a little weird. It is mostly boys, even though I guess in this example they also got the sister. But listen, just the fact that it's possible is good enough reason to stop the practice. And even if none of them were, there's still a million other reasons to oppose it. So you don't even need to go to the worst case scenario.
I guess the link I would draw is this, that in principle, the rent-a-womb surrogacy method of creating children is the idea that children exist or can be created in service to your pleasures. That's what's going on there. Fundamentally, being a PDF file is the same view that children exist to serve your pleasures. I'm not saying they're the exact same thing, but isn't the principle that is violated very close?
Yeah. No, I see what you mean.
I think I don't know. I don't know that Injured Guardian intended for me to go that way with the chat, but it's interesting to think about just because, I read that chat and I can see, actually, they're not pedophiles. Well, okay. I mean,
actually, they're just predators. You see that a lot.
I agree. I'm not going to make accusations of criminality against them that aren't substantiated. That's correct. However, you can see, per the prior Rick Santorum reference, you can see the connection of point A to point B on principle. And I think that's why it plays out the way that Injured Guardian is talking about.
Well, even if there was a bombshell study that, they were adopting kids, at higher rates for those kind of nefarious purposes, there would be a sort of social justice movement to completely obfuscate that fact and ignore it and say, oh, straight people do it too, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it would be one of those it's not happening things, and it wouldn't quite turn into it's happening, but it's good, but it would be it's happening, but who cares? Anyone could do it, that kind of thing.
No, it'll be good. Yeah. You're right.
You think it'll be good in their view? Maybe it will. Who knows?
It is happening, and it's good. Yeah.
Well, didn't Milo kind of argue that when he was remember when he made those comments?
That argument that got him in a lot of trouble was about something about older men grooming younger men in the gay community because
Yeah.
he says he was groomed by some priest or church leader or something. I can't remember all the details, but
yeah. But I think he tried to argue, well, there's some positive benefits too. It was
something like that. Yeah.
Where just keep that story to yourself. Maybe. But
it seemed to present clearly as him probably processing something that happened to him that explains why he is the way he is.
Yeah.
And no matter
maybe, I think the generous interpretation is he just did not want to see himself as a victim, even though he clearly was.
Yeah, that's probably a way it plays out mentally. Thank you, Injured Guardian, Long Dong John. Surely Shane McAnally is a stage name. Imagine if your name was Matt Anelson. I wish Batman. Well, that's actually the last name of that poor boy. He's Anal son of these anal loving men. I take that joke back. This sucks. That kid doesn't deserve this. I hate the whole thing.
Yeah.
Can I dump button that one?
I
Probably
was forgetting the whole time the kid is now also a McAnal for his life.
Is he? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Does he become bum or does he become McAnal?
Can you imagine being a middle schooler with two dads and your last name is McAnal? It's game over.
God,
game over, man.
God bless that kid, and please protect him.
He needs our support.
I wish Batman was on for this segment so we could hear about about how these fags have a long overdue date with the wood chipper. I'm sure he would say something to that effect. You know what you can do, Long Dong John? Hop in the MC Club Discord server. You can communicate with him there. You are a longtime supporter of the show. If you want to be an honorary member, if you're not already, email me and I'll get you connected. You can talk to Batman directly. I shouldn't offer that. He's under no obligation to respond. Nobody is. But as a generally all the personalities of the show are in the server and talk about stuff. So that's kind of fun. Producer Tim, years ago we had a short-lived show in Australia called Can of Worms, which covered controversial topics. They talked about gay marriage and also covered gay parenting. The gay guy said he kept his mother in his child's life because it was needed. Now see, that's okay. So I imagine some gay surrogacy guys have the same philosophy. Oh, it's important that this child does have a connection to his mom. Why though? And
right, you're admitting.
See, once you explain the why, how do you justify even the partial removal of mom? I'm so much better because he sees his mom a few times a year. To say, hey, mom, and feel really weird about it, wondering why his mom actually abandoned him. That's not... If you answer that question correctly, why is mom necessary in the kid's life, it still defeats what you're doing by excluding mom from being a day-to-day part of the kid's life.
Yeah, it's an admission that what you're doing is wrong and you're depriving them of something they need.
Yeah. So. Tim also says the film that made me cry the most was Titanic. No, old Rose was a piece of shit, dude. Rose is the real villain of Titanic. She might have been a piece of shit when she was younger, too.
Did you see James Cameron actually did a scientific experiment to see if they could both fit on the float at the end of the movie?
And they probably couldn't
So
they?
Here's the thing. They could... but it would have dipped into the water where he still would have froze to death.
Okay.
So I doubt he actually planned that ahead of time, but it turns out it wouldn't have worked either way.
I say that old Rose is a piece of shit because she still prioritizes the sexual fling that she had with a guy
over her actual
60 years ago over her actual 80 years ago over her actual family, and she throws tremendous wealth for her family into the ocean. But the weirdest thing about Rose, I remember talking about this when we reviewed the movie way back when she sets up on her deathbed aboard the ship where they're searching for the heart of the ocean and examining the Titanic and all that, she has pictures set out, who the hell takes framed photos of them when packing to go on a trip? But even if she knew she was going to die out there or something, so she wanted the set to be important, her deathbed to be set appropriately. It's all just pictures of herself. Here I am riding a horse. Here I am this and that. And she just, speaking of betraying your family, it seems like old Rose did that. She didn't give a shit about her actual family that she built, including the granddaughter, whoever that was, who cared for her in her elder years. You know who could use the wealth from that heart of the ocean? Her.
Yeah.
She could probably retire early. It'd be very nice of you to do that, Grandma. Anyway, sorry, I ran over Tim's thought. He cried during the Titanic. About 2.5 hours in, I was emotionally destroyed. Oh, okay, I see. I was going to call you Well, I was going to ask you.
Are you a homosexual?
But there is a punchline here. Tears were streaming down my face, and I eventually had to stand up in the cinema and scream, "Fuck, just sink this fucking ship already." Yeah. Good recovery. Long Dong John says, Trump is on Truth Social saying they've seized an Iranian container ship trying to run the blockade. Multiple outlets are reporting it. Iran is not happy. Right. So this is what just happened before the show. So thank you, Long Dong John. I appreciate keeping us updated on that. Esoterica Unbound. There are modern mines that lay on the seafloor and then chase a target if it happens into the area. They're a cross between Flipper and the Terminator. Okay, so then, is it possible Iran has control of them but doesn't know where they are then?
I don't know. It's just weird. Like, there's tracking devices and everything except the sea mines now. I don't buy it.
Yeah. Thank you for the sea mine explanation. Also says, I don't know about millennials or Zoomers, but when I see videos of spring break in Daytona Beach or Juneteenth celebrations, I always think these are clearly the people who invented everything.
That is true. And are no longer capable of inventing anymore.
Yeah.
That was just a thing of the past. It's over with, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Esoteric Unbound. Taker610. If Kermit the Frog was a real person, I think he'd be Matt Palumbo. Are you saying he has a Kermit-like voice? Does he?
I've heard it before. I should I'll pursue voice acting.
Maybe. I think that your voice, as you've said, is kind of similar to Don Jr.
I've heard Don Jr. Yeah. Is Al Michaels the football guy?
Oh, yeah, the play-by-play guy?
I don't hear myself, and
I've never thought that.
Someone claimed that, and then who else? I don't know. I think it's Ray Romano, maybe. I think it's just a category of voice.
Ray Romano. You know, I had an emailer say something like, not just that you're like Ray Romano in voice, you're like Ray Romano in public perception, because of course everyone loves you. You're highly regarded.
That's all. What a nice email.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's why you're like Ray. Yeah.
Excellent.
Esoterica Unbound. By the way, I'd be amazed if either of you get the reference to Flipper. Well, you did, didn't you?
I don't think I did. Which one was that?
I thought you mentioned that.
No, not Flipper.
He says this was related to his previous mine message. There are modern mines that lay on the seafloor and chase a target if it happens into the area. They're a cross between Flipper and the Terminator. So
I get Terminator, obviously, but Flipper I did not seen.
I don't think I've seen the movie, but I'm aware there's a dolphin involved, so it must be something about how the dolphin tracks things or moves in the water. That's my best attempt.
Good guess.
Yeah. Injured Guardian. Refuting a Moriarty while hosting a Doyle. Ironic. That one's actually over my head. So we're talking about lesbianism, right?
Yeah.
But hosting a Doyle, why? What's the Doyle reference?
Is it sexual?
Is there something about the word or name Doyle that is gay or something? I don't know. You're over my head on this one. I'm sorry. I can't do this joke justice.
10 seconds, the chat will explain it to us.
Yes, yeah, please do, because that one's beyond me. VV says, Matts, plural, when you read the Gospel of Matthew, read Genesis, Exodus, bouncing back and forth, one chapter at a time. Focus on the complementary differences between God the Father and Jesus as God the Son. Okay. Well, there's a reason I choose to go through these texts with someone leading me, too. Both, in the Bible study and in the context of church. And I know there's a lot of value of just sitting down reading the Bible yourself, and I probably should. I haven't really got to that stage of feeling I properly understand it yet. So I've chosen to consume the Bible through my Bible study and through church in a way that someone is leading me, and it, I think, adds contextual understanding. So hopefully through that, I can just kind of start reading on my own and understanding things more in context than I would if I just tried to do it a couple years ago with no real knowledge going in.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been reading the version from Word on Fire, Bishop Robert Barron's organization, and it's like a commentary, heavy Bible where everything is explained, lots of graphics and stuff. It's very easy to digest. And in the chat, it was a Sherlock Holmes reference. So Arthur Conan Doyle wrote Sherlock Holmes, and Sherlock's opponent was Moriarty.
Oh, Moriarty.
So that was a very good. That was a very good comment.
It's literary. It has nothing to do with. I was thinking lesbian and gay, but it's just strictly literary.
Yeah.
You guys know literature, you know sea mines. I don't even know why you allow me to host this show or Matt P.
And then also,
matter.
holy shit, he does sound like Al Michaels. I don't hear that one.
Now that I think about it, I kind of hear it, but I wonder if it's the quality of your voice or maybe just the kind of New York. I don't know if you have a New York accent, but
I'm in the New York metropolitan area.
But you have like a
not
northeastern sound. I don't know how to describe it because it's not full on like "What's the matter, you?" that kind of
Right.
stuff. It's or is that just Italians? I don't know, but
I don't identify with them.
But there's something about like that region that has a vocal quality. I can't put my finger on it, but I sort of see what people are saying on that. Okay, I think we're all set. Let me give it a quick refresh.
Sure.
We'll call it a night. And thank you for correcting the joke on the literary reference. My apologies
Yeah, it was
for
good.
my ignorance. I think we're all set. Good on YouTube, good on Rumble.
Cool.
Anything else you want to mention before we are out of here?
Well, I have to do my patented trademarked book plug.
All right.
Which I, for the first time in like 6 months, actually have a copy with me, even though it's usually 5 feet away from me. If anyone wants to read it, I mean, I don't really care about like the royalties. If anyone emails me or tweets me, I'll send you a PDF copy. PDF meaning actually PDF, not that other thing. And then also
Email Matt P for great PDF files.
yeah, not that. And then also, and you link to this in your description of the video, I would never encourage anyone to violate Amazon's terms of service and give a book a 5-star review you haven't read, but I'm not going to stop anyone. So
it is an option that's out there.
Yes.
In Minecraft,
which I would never
in Call of
say
Duty.
you should do ever. Yeah. And also at Amazon, so you can leave like a review, like give it 5 stars without actually writing a review, so you don't even have to use your brain. But I would never encourage anyone to do that.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in tonight. Thanks to our live chatters and super chatters for making the live show a success and for keeping us in touch with whatever's going on in the Strait. Appreciate that. If you're listening on demand later, thank you kindly as well for supporting the show. Thanks to our guest, John Doyle. Find the John Doyle Show at The Blaze and his links in the description as well. Thanks to the highly regarded Matt Palumbo for joining. He may not know a lot about sea mines, but he knows a lot about other things.
It's true.
Find his X account and, again, his latest book on Alex Soros linked in the description. Thanks to producer Tim for his assistance as always. Find everything show-related at mattchristiansenmedia.com or mattis.gay if you prefer brevity. Join the MC Club if you enjoy the show. Plenty of supporter perks for you there. You can help keep the duct tape production in operation. I am live on Wednesday and Sunday nights. Hope to see you then. Have a great night and a great week.